What is going on, everybody? It's your boy Clint back here for the Die Hard MMA podcast. Welcome back to the Monday show. How's everybody doing in the chat this evening? We are breaking down UFC Vegas 20, and you may have noticed, that's right, I changed up the shirt. So we put on the Fireball and Popcorn shirt. We had two excellent cashing weeks back to back. But unfortunately, we dropped one on Saturday. We came down official podcast record minus 0.26 units. Baby little loss, but you know what? An L is an L, which means we got to ditch the lucky shirt and switch on for greener pastures. We're going to hope maybe we can ride this bad boy to glory. And I think that's a new thing I'm going to be doing is we're going to wear a shirt as long as we're on the heater, and we'll rotate them out as long as we're losing to figure out which one is going to, serve us well. Welcome in the chat here a little bit. We've got Jan H. Hey. We've got Herman Newsom Freeman, that is a mouthful. How you doing tonight? We've got Peter Ciryl, the Gaming Wolf 87, SD Cruiser. We've got Michael Luizo Smith's MMA Betting, KCOH MMA. I was trying to figure out what that was, but I'm just going to say the letters. Hayden Schmitterman, Niles Land, Frankie Facefack. We've got Joseph Naspom. How's everybody doing tonight? Welcome into the show. Thank you all for hanging out with me this evening. Real quick, I've got a guest on the show for you. You guys know that. I don't want to keep my man waiting, but I want to run over how we did last week real quick. Like I said, minus 0.26 units, and it's because of the post weigh-in show. So if you're new to the show, if you're new to the Die Hard MMA podcast, I do 3 shows a week. On Monday, that's today, we break down the card ahead of time, and we are breaking this thing down a week in advance. So my opinions have time to grow and change, and sometimes we get new information, and especially, you gotta watch the Friday show. I do the post weigh-in show. It's the best show that I do. It is the best reads that I have. When I adjust, when I pivot, when I do something different on the post weigh-in show, it's usually the best results I have of the entire week. For example, we had a parlay with Ketlin Vieira and Curtis Blades. We went hard. We did a full 2-unit hedge on Yana Kunitskaya, and that really saved our night, cashing plus 4.6 units. So if you watch the Monday show, make sure you go to odds.com on Friday and watch the post weigh-in show. But regardless, we had a minor loss for the weekend, and man, I can't believe the hate that was coming out after such 2 solid weeks. We're up 18 units for 2021, and we have one little bitty loss, and the hate, man, I gotta tell you, I don't know where did I put that thing? No? No, it's not. It's not there. No, I'm sorry, everybody. I looked everywhere and I couldn't find a single fuck to give. Fuck the haters. We're rolling this bad boy along. And with that said, welcome into the show, my guy, Manpreet, MMA Lock of the Night. How you doing, buddy?
Bringing the giggles to start off the show. I love it, Clint. I fucking love it. I'm like, where is he going with this? Is it haters? Is it the fucks? I'm glad you went with the fucks because that's the way I go about it as well, too. Glad that you brought me back on the show, buddy. I love doing it. I think this is the 3rd time now. Always a great response every time we do it out. I think this is the 2nd time I'm on the show since I've been a part of odds as well, too. So most of your fan base already knows about your boy. But yeah, I love doing this with you, man. I think we probably have some of the best chemistry when it comes to these guys that are doing these prediction videos. So I'm really looking forward to this one, man.
I couldn't agree more, man. You're one of the favorites for me personally and for the chat. Both of us have built pretty awesome, positive communities, and that's what, I love that. Like, we just kind of mesh well together. And I know we talked about it the first time you came on the show. We had a weird chemistry that we had never talked before, and it just kind of fired right off the bat. So we got to keep this bad boy rolling. Happy to have you on as often as you can get here.
Dude, again, send out that lock signal. Your boy's here.
You know it. I didn't save it on the desktop. Damn it. I could have thrown that up right for the for everybody to see. So, man, I went over how I did last week. I had a little minor bump in the road. The huge heel turn on Yana Kunitskaya really saved my night. And then, honestly, man, what I should have done, I did it on Yana. I didn't do it on Jared Gordon. Gordon missing weight by 5 pounds. I went, that's gonna be a problem. But for some reason, I decided I don't like the guy, and especially after him talking shit and flexing, coming in 5 pounds over, I think my emotions got the best of me, and I still wanted him to see get knocked out. This is about money. We can't make it personal. I should have hedged off. I knew that was coming, and I didn't. I went down with the ship and lost 2.7 units on Danny Chavez. That was really the only other spot that I feel like I really messed up on last week. How about yourself? How'd you do, man?
Yeah, no, I'm glad I hit on the Jared Gordon side too, because I saw a lot of that early love on Danny Chavez, and I'm just like, okay, I see it. Like, I'm glad that I got the plus money on Gordon there, but I think I got a little bit too lazy on the Ketlin Vieira parlay. I did the same one, but I had the Daukaus under 1.5 parlayed with her, and then after I saw her on the scales, I was like, ooh. I'm not a hedging man. I'm not nothing against anybody that hedges, but I just don't like hedging myself. But you're not getting a bad number on Kunitskaya when she's up at like plus 230, plus 220, right? So I told people on on my own page and people that follow me, I'm like, if you're the type to hedge, go for it. Like you could have gotten a much worse price to hedge in a position like this, but you're getting a great price here on Yana Kunitskaya. People can say all they want about the scorecards and all that stuff. As somebody that had money on Vieira, I'm completely understanding and agree with the Yana Kunitskaya scorecards, right? She's literally the only one doing damage, while as Vieira is just holding her and just praying to the gods that the judges are going to give it to her. And especially that last little flurry that we got from Kunitskaya at the end of the fight. In my opinion, that definitely stole the fight for her. And then lastly, Blades really screwed it up for me, man. He was the last one I was literally, if he cashed the inside the distance, I had him at minus 167. If that cashed, it would have been a great night. But you can't count on Derek Lewis that much, man. I'm such a bummer. The messed up thing is I picked him when they originally scheduled to fight in November. And then during that time, I just I don't know what it was, an epiphany or whatever the hell it was. I switched my pick to the point that I'm like, I'm going balls deep on a Blades here inside the distance, especially if I can get better than minus 200. And it didn't really work out. But I can't be mad. You know what I mean? When you're banking on a high-level fighter like Curtis Blades and the path to victory for his opponent is so small, you got to take the shot. You know what I mean? Yeah. I know you were on the round props of Blades. I believe you had him inside the distance as well. Is that true?
So I actually had just the parlay with Vieira and Blades, which was dead because of the hedge and because Yana pulled that off. And then I had round 3, 4, and 5 with Blades, which honestly I loved, man. First off, let me rewind a second. I was going to ask you, so I'm super glad you brought up the Yana Kunitskaya thing. She absolutely won that fight. And I know people online were crying robbery. They were calling this thing a bad decision. And I got to tell you, there's an argument to be made that she 30-27 to that fight. Like, there's only so much control positions matter when you're not doing anything. If you're Khabib and you're on top and your opponent isn't touching you, that's a control position. Yeah. If you're scrambling off their back and in their guard and things, and they land 60 plus strikes on you, you're not winning a fight. Yeah, you're on top, but this is a fight. You're not winning the fight from that position. And like you said, man, especially that flurry at the end, cutting her up with that big elbow, that was definitely the nail in the coffin. But I don't think there's any controversy there. I think the judges got it right. But to your point on Blades and Lewis, man, I think Curtis Blades should have just stuck with the striking. I mean, after he realized that Lewis was going to be a bear to take down, drag him into the 3rd or 4th round, man. Just keep attacking that front leg. If he had just kept on chipping away, he had the speed advantage, he had the range advantage. Yep. If he had just stayed at distance and kept on chipping away, I still think that Blades gets it done. But man, we just can't go disrespecting Derek Lewis anymore.
Yeah, he holds the most knockouts in UFC history now, which is insane. Just the last thing about the Yana Kunitskaya thing, I found it interesting that one judge gave Yana round 1, but gave Vieira round 3, which I found to be completely crazy. Like, if you're giving her round 3, you have to give her round 1. You know what I mean? I thought it was 1-1 going into that 3rd round, and then that late flurry, not to mention the cumulative damage from Yana throughout that round, definitely gave her that round. But yeah, the Blades thing, man, it is what it is. Like, everybody expected it to be so easy to get Derek Lewis down, and it seemed like he did a really good job of hiding that counter uppercut that he was just waiting to plant on Blades' face. Blades was feinting. He was doing everything possible, changing levels, and Derek Lewis was not showing it at all. He's like, until this guy's head is near my crotch, I'm gonna keep my uppercut cocked. And he landed it clean. I can't be mad losing in the distance blades bet like that. But yeah, it is what it is. We got to give Derek Lewis some respect.
We do. We got to give Derek Lewis some respect. And, man, I guess one of the things we got to remind people is, especially for us, we're not just talking picks. We're not just coming on here to be like, I think this guy's going to win. We're betting. And when you talk betting, it's all about percentages. Until it's a 100%, crazy shit happens in MMA. Like that's why we love this sport. That's why we're fans of the sport. You get two heavyweights, two guys that weigh 250 plus pounds in a small cage, and anything can happen. And it may have been a 10% shot that Lewis wins that fight, but 10%, 90% is not 100%. So that's all I'm saying.
One thing I do want to say about the last card as well, too, when you have instances like Derek Minner winning by decision and you have Phil Hawes winning by decision, anything can clearly happen in MMA.
What the hell, man?
Insane.
So, that's one, man, I got to tell you, I didn't sack up and play the over 2.5 on Derek Minner. And
I had the under there, man, and I was so bummed. I'm like,
dude,
James Krause, stop making this guy a better fighter.
I called that over. I said that I thought Rosa was going to win by decision, not Minner. But I was like, you know what, though? If it goes to the cards, like we just saw Rosa get controlled by Thug Nasty, the over 2.5 at plus money is a good spot. And then I wanted to sit back and wait because money kept coming in on the under. And then I forgot to lock in the over. Like the plus went to exactly where I wanted it to be. The value was there. I had the read. And then I forgot about my own damn read throughout the week with all the articles and content and shit that I do. Totally missed the opportunity, man. That pissed me off so bad.
I think a lot of people ate shit this past weekend just because like there's the under 2.5 in that fight. There are a lot of people on. The fight doesn't go to decision as chalky as it was in the Hawes and Imavov fight. That's another one that a lot of people lost on. And then obviously Blades shit in the bed the way that he did, right? So MMA, that's why we love this sport. If it was super predictable, would we be as big fans as we are right now? We'd be rich as hell, that's for sure. But it just would not be as fun if we don't have these unpredictable moments. So again, it's a bad event, but we move on. And thankfully that was the 3rd out of 8 straight weekends that we got coming up. So the train keeps on rolling, Clint. The train keeps on rolling.
No sleep, man. No rest for the weary. We got to keep on rolling. And as I tell my followers, man, new battle starts tonight.
Yes,
we lost a little battle last week. The war is still raging, and let's get it back, man. Let's do it. We're talking UFC Vegas 20. For those of you just jumping in, we got just shy of 200 live viewers, 197. So smash that like button, hit the retweet on Twitter if you wouldn't mind, and let's dive into this thing, man. The first fight of the night, we're looking at a light heavyweight fight between Dustin Jacoby taking on Maxime Grishin, and this is one that's kind of perked my interest just a little bit. Jacoby 13-5, Grishin 31-8. Dustin, this is his second run in the UFC. He went 0-2 and got, booted the last time around. He's training at Factory X these days. Solid kickboxer, nice leg kicks, good footwork, circles well, but he's a big counter puncher. He keeps his hands low and he tends to be just a little bit hittable, but you can't sleep on his striking. He's very flashy and he's got some big time knees, flying knees, clinch knees. Like the guy is dangerous pretty much everywhere. Maxime Grishin, He came in short notice against Tybura and did not look out of place at heavyweight, man. Short notice, up a weight class. It took the bigger, stronger man grinding on him to get him out of there. Very tough, very durable. But he's got a big body kick that I like, and he's another guy that strikes well moving backwards. And that's an interesting thing to me, that if you have the ability to backpedal and still land bombs, that's something that I find interesting. But he's another guy that's hittable. He's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage. I feel like Maxime Grishin is going to be the bigger, stronger guy here in this spot, but it also feels like Dustin Jacoby has kind of found new life, man. Talk to me about these guys. What do you think's going on here?
Yeah, early on, like pre-tape, I was looking at this. I'm like, Grishin at plus money seems quite interesting, given his experience, given that he's been around the MMA game for as long as he has, not to mention been in the cage alongside guys like Magomed Ankalaev, and there's a bunch of other names on his record earlier on, like Trevor Prangley and Ray Lopez. He even had a kickboxing fight with Sokuju, right? The guy's been around the block. But then you look at the improvements that we've seen from Dustin Jacoby since the first time he's been in the UFC, right? Going over there to Factory X Muay Thai. And I find it interesting because his last fight in the UFC was against Chris Camozzi, who's a Denver guy himself too. So I believe after he lost that fight, he's like, you know what, let me just go train with this guy. And that's where he's been doing, focusing a lot on his kickboxing career, which is very impressive as well. But the one thing that I find very interesting actually about most recently in his career, he had this one night trifecta tournament type of thing where he fought MMA fight, a kickboxing fight, and a boxing fight, and he won all of them.
How cool is that?
Yeah, he wins a decision against Cody East in MMA, knocks out a guy in boxing, and then beats the old grizzled vet and Tony Lopez in a kickboxing fight by punches. So great win for him there. But the thing that I like about him most, and which is why I'm staying off the Grishin side now, is like you said, Grishin moves back a lot, and he's not that bad off of his back foot when he's striking. But Dustin Jacoby is just like another level when it comes to striking, right? His knack for that calf kick is just. I love guys that calf kick, but that are able to do it that are able to do it very effectively, right? And he doesn't just have a calf kick; his hands are some shit too, right? He's definitely going to be giving these people some problems. And I think a guy like Grishin is going to have a very tough time tracking down Jacoby and dealing with those calf kicks and dealing with the kickboxing experience coming back his way. So unless he like pushes him up against the cage and kind of just lays on him, I don't see that. Jacoby's a big, strong dude himself too. And Grishin, he's like he meets the average needs of a mixed martial arts fighter, and then he has the advantage of his experience, which is amazing. But I think Jacoby's just going to have him beat on the feet here. I think we've seen the solid improvements from Jacoby, and again, aligning himself with Factory X MMA. Amazing move. Mark Montoya is just an absolute master, and obviously the training partners he has out of that gym too is very top notch. So I'm going with Jacoby. I'm not 100% sure if I'll be betting it. You know, that line is a little bit too wide for me, but I still think that he gets the job done here. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's by knockout. Grishin is quite durable, but just to be on the safe side, I'll go by decision. But take a look at that inside the distance if that's a possibility a little bit later on. But yeah, I'm going with Jacoby here.
I couldn't agree with you more, man. Absolutely couldn't agree more. I looked at this thing and first thought was Grishin. He stood up to Tybura. He's coming down to 205 where he's natural. He just beat Ankalaev the last time out. And then I went back and I watched that Ankalaev fight. First off, Ankalaev is just nothing to write home about. Oh. Second off, it was a standing referee saving TKO, which, you know, Ankalaev got pissed about and was like yelling at the ref about afterwards because he wasn't out. He was still on the feet. Grishin just doesn't seem to have the power that you need to put a guy away anymore, which is weird because he's got 16 wins by knockout. And then you kind of look that he's been fighting a lot of nobodies on the regional scene and that kind of thing. And Dustin Jacoby just really looks like he's turned a corner. He's streaking. Grishin is 36 years old. He's been knocked out 3 times over the course of his career. I'm with you, man. I think Dustin Jacoby on second thought is actually the way to go. And I do think there's a chance that he gets this thing done by knockout. We've seen Grishin hurt. We've seen him wobbled. He's been able to dig through it. But the way that Jacoby is aggressive lately, and again, we're talking small cage and, you know, the Apex, these guys are going to be forced to go head to head. And I think Jacoby's probably going to go ahead and stamp one here.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you for sure. I wanted to play that plus money on the much more experienced MMA guy here, but what you see from Jacoby is just very impressive, and I'd find it hard to believe that Grishin is going to continuously be able to close that distance without eating all these big shots from Jacoby. Not to mention that calf kick, man. It's going to be brutal for Grishin to have to deal with those.
Absolutely, man. So, okay, we agree on that one, and I'm trying to be a little bit more conscious of this because every week I get it in the comments. No predictions. Clint, again, we're talking sports betting, folks. So if I give you like an official pick or a bet, it's because I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I want to bet on this fighter. If I'm not doing that, then it's just a whim. It's like I think this guy is going to win. And it's not something that I suggest that you bet. I might end up betting Dustin Jacoby. I don't know that for sure. At this point, I have not. He's my pick to win. If you want to give me a follow on Twitter over at Die Hard MMA Pod, that's where I tweet all my official picks and bets. So that's where you'll find the exact difference of did he bet it or not. That's where you'll find out. And while we're at it, Lock of the Night, man, where can they find you on Twitter?
Yeah, MMA LOTN on Twitter, MMA LOTN on the YouTubes, and I'm even trying to try my hand at the IG thing. I know there's a little bit of a market there to like try to get your face out there a little bit more. So if you guys have the IG, MMA LOTN, pretty nice and simple.
I'm doing the thing on IG as well. I'm far less active though, because it's a pain in the ass to post pictures all the time instead of just tweeting your thoughts.
Same with me. I just stick with the stories now. Like I'll put up my pics, like I'll put out pictures of what my picks are, and then I'll just say everything else I update just through my story. That's it.
I screen cap what I'm tweeting because I'm like, y'all don't want to see my ugly mug every time I make a bet. So like, I'm just gonna snap my Twitter feed so you can see what's happening. Real quick, everybody, it's about 10 minutes. Y'all know I'm an absolute degenerate, and I like to throw these out here on Monday.
Got some NHL picks?
Got some NHL picks. If anybody is wanting to just ride or die with your boy, tonight I'm on the Islanders. I'm on the money line, and I always play the -1.5, the puck line, to get that extra little sprinkle for a score. I'm on the Coyotes, and then I'm on the Kings and the Wild. I also like the Kings and Blues over 5.5, Wild Sharks over 5.5. That's my degenerate action. And on that Islanders game, goal scorer props. Make sure you do Andersley and Pajot. I also like to sprinkle those first those first goal props. We got 12-1 on Lee and 14-1 on Pajot. So just a little sprinkle. There you go, if you're rocking with me. Next fight coming up, we've got a bantamweight fight. Vince Cachero taking on Ronnie Lawrence, and I already have a bet on this one, Locke, man. I want to hear your take, and then I'll chime in at the end.
Yeah, I think I know what your play already is here, but this is one that I need to dig into a little bit further because I feel like I'm not getting the best read. So with Ronnie Lawrence, obviously we get a guy that's very mobile, likes to fight from the outside, kicks a lot, throws a lot of spinning shit, and then when he wants to, he can go out there and get the takedown and do some good work from on top. That's what I've just been seeing as of late. On the flip side for Cachero, I feel like we almost have to throw out that Jamal Emmers fight, given that it was a short notice fight, a weight class above as well. You can clearly tell when they're in the cage as well, too, that he's just having a tough time dealing with the strength and the size of Jamal Emmers there. Still manages to get off a ton of strikes, which is impressive. But I still think that he was kind of struggling with the outside work that Jamal Emmers was throwing at him, from like the teep kicks up the middle and just the striking from the outside. And that's kind of like Ronnie Lawrence's bread and butter, right? Like he fights from the outside, uses his kicks quite a lot. And then when he needs to, I feel like he has decent fight IQ in terms of taking this fight to the ground when he needs to. Also, one thing that I like about Ronnie Lawrence is it seems like he's just like jumping around from gym to gym to get as much information as possible and get as much looks as possible. Most recently, down at Sanford MMA, which is doing wonders for a lot of people, right? Guys are going down there and just improving their game. Jared Gordon last week, Phil Hawes last week, right? Like Sanford is definitely a nice little hotbed for guys that are looking to rejuvenate their career a little bit. And that's weird to say for a guy like Ronnie Lawrence, right? He's still young, doesn't have that many fights, was a Contender Series alum, fought an LFA once, I believe it was. I like what I see from him, and I like the fact that he's able to mix it up. Cachero, on the other hand, it seems to me, again, I got to dig a little bit deeper, but it seems like he's mainly a striker, and it seems like he was struggling a little bit with the range fighting from Jamal Emmers. And then earlier, I believe the guy that he fought on like a 24 hours notice, it was kind of skeptical that he just got taken down pretty much immediately. And then it seemed like that guy was gassed, just trying to hold down this Cachero. So I lean Ronnie Lawrence. -155 isn't a horrible line given the advantages I believe that he has. If Cachero is able to stuff takedowns, if he's able to kind of like hold his ground while Lawrence is dancing around, and whenever he tries to close the distance and get his strikes off, if Cachero just stands his ground and just returns pretty much every single strike, like the fight that it kind of reminds me of would be like Jessica Ai against Viviane Araujo, where Araujo is just on the outside, picking and potting her shots, and then Jessica Ai is just standing her ground and throwing combinations back. If we see that type of approach from Cachero and he's able to stuff takedowns, yeah, I see a path to victory for him here. But from what I'm seeing, the light tape that I've done on this fight, I lean Ronnie Lawrence. I will dig a little bit deeper, but I'd love to hear your side of Cachero and why you think he's worth that dog money.
Okay. Now, real quick, man, before I jump into that, the chat is kind of blowing up here. It seems like there's a bit of trouble with the lag, and I'm hoping, Cynthia, I saw you in the chat. I don't know if maybe there's something that you can do about that. Guys, I do apologize. I'm literally streaming the podcast in YouTube as we're doing it. I'm not having any buffering issues, and I know a lot of people,
I was looking at that too.
I'm trying to test it out to see if it was something that was a problem or not. So maybe everybody just try and give it a refresh. Refresh your page, see if that'll work, or head on over to Twitter. We've tweeted out the link. You can watch it on Periscope. Maybe something's going on with YouTube because I definitely have high-speed internet. I promise you guys, as a streamer, I have high-speed internet. So I'm not sure what the deal is. It looks like the chat is split. About half of you are saying that it's great, and then the other half of you are talking about buffering. So I apologize. If you got to bounce and watch the replay, that may be your best option. I don't want you to leave, but at the same time, you know, I apologize. We're not seeing the stream, and I'm definitely not seeing the lag. If I can live stream and view the live stream on YouTube at the same time without it buffering, it's not on my end. So I'm not sure what the deal is.
Yeah, no, I tried checking it out on my side too. It seems like it's 100% clear, but not 100%. Again, I'm not sure what the fix is here. Not a big tech genius.
No idea what the issue is. So I apologize, guys. Like I said, if it keeps giving you a problem, check it out. We're on Facebook Live. We're on Twitch. We're on Periscope, on Twitter. So check out, you know, those other sources instead of on YouTube, and maybe that'll fix it for you. And if it doesn't, we will be posting the replay, you know, as soon as the show is over on odds.com, so you can always check it out. And unfortunately, just won't be able to be live for it. I hate to say that, but that, you know, might be the fix for you tonight.
Am I the unlucky bug here? Am I the one causing the rift?
Hey, if it's working for me and it's working for you, and we're the two doing the streaming, like I don't know.
Only so much we could do.
What's going on? Maybe it's Jacksonville's own. No, I'm just kidding, buddy. Love you. Thanks for hanging out on the show.
Looks good on my end, yeah.
Okay, so Cynthia's saying pop out and pop back in. So we're at a good stopping point, Locke. I'm going to pop you out, man, and see if that does it. Let's see here. Watch this. Be gone. All right, there we go. And we're back. And we're back. live streaming, baby. You got to love it. There's nothing you can do. Fuck it, we'll do it live.
Exactly.
All right, man. So what I'm looking at here on this one, Vince Cachero is 7-3, and I found it interesting that he is 1-3 in his last 4 fights. Like that doesn't sound great. You know, you're coming in to the UFC and you've got a rough run and kind of a tough record, but they give you another shot. To me, unless they find you somebody who they're willing to step on, they're using you to boost somebody else. I think they see something in this kid. And he fights out of Factory X, which is a really good gym. That's not a gym that we need to be overlooking. And this is a kid that I really like what I see from his overall game. He's super heavy on his feet. He hits really hard, sharp boxing, walks his opponents down, and he can sleep people, man. If he connects, he's got some big-time power in his hands, and he's got really good counter wrestling, strong hips, and he's a guy that when he does get taken down, he's aggressive off of his back. You know, we just saw fighters that were in not control positions that won fights. This is the kind of guy that can do that. He's going to Tony Ferguson light you up from the guard with his elbows if you do manage to get him to the ground. And Ronnie Lawrence is a guy that I'm still just not quite sold on. I mean, he's training out of Sanford MMA, which is great. He does have a good takedown game, especially with that body lock. He's got excellent use of the underhooks. He does look for trip takedowns and things like that. But that's the exact kind of thing that I've seen Vince have a whole lot of success defending. And when we talk about takedowns, you know as well as I do, wrestlers, you want to have the lower hips. Yeah. That's where Vince Cachero is going to have the advantage, being the shorter, stockier fighter. Usually I like taking the taller, longer man. I like that advantage. But when you're reliant on your grappling and your wrestling, it kind of turns into a disadvantage to be the bigger, taller guy. So I think that this is going to be a fight that Vince Cachero is very, very live in. And on top of that, he's fought a much higher level of competition. I mean, he does have that knockout loss, but that was to our boy, man. Like Vince Cachero, let me pull his official record up here so I can make sure I'm quoting everything here correctly. So his losses came to Casey Kenny, who's just destroying the UFC right now. Like this kid is on a rocket ship headed up towards the top. And then he has a fight with Jamal Emmers was the last one, which, yeah, he lost the decision to Jamal Emmers, but we know how tall and long and how good of a grappler that guy is. I mean, even in his losses, I feel like he is impressed. And the fact that he's seen that next level, he's fought those higher caliber guys. And, you know, Lawrence pulled the upset his last time out on Dana White's Contender Series, and now he's the big favorite. Like, oh, man, I like going against Dana White Contender Series guys. I like fading them their first step into the UFC. The fact that Cachero is both the underdog and has the higher level experience, I'm going to take my shot, man. I'm on Cachero here.
I'm never going to bang on somebody for taking an underdog shot, right? Like you can obviously that the public is on it as well too, because I believe Lawrence opened up at minus 185. Now he's down to minus 150, minus 155. So I get the love for Cachero, but I might have to do a little bit more digging on my end to see what you're seeing here.
There you go. Nothing wrong with that. And hey, man, we talked about it, right? Underdogs have been hitting at like a 40% clip so far 2018. Yeah. So underdogs are the way to roll right now.
They are killing
and I'm getting requests to rub the bald head. There you guys go. Have at it. We got 250 live viewers right here on Monday night. Thank you all very much for hanging out with us for this one. Next fight up, unfortunately, is not Hani Barcelos taking on Marcelo Rojo, which sucks because, of course, I did my due diligence and I put my time in. They're trying to save Rojo. It sounds like they're going to give this guy, try and find him a short notice opponent. This is, honestly, I love Hani Barcelos. I want to see this guy fight. But if there was a fight to lose on this card to me, this was it. Like, he was just going to run through this guy. He's levels above. Why is he fighting a short notice debutante type of fighter? It just didn't make sense to me. Hani Barcelos was going to be a 10-1 favorite, and I don't see the upset happening in this kind of a case. So we'll skip on over that one, unless you had something to say on that, man.
No, I'm glad I didn't waste my time taping that because it happened to me with Randy Brown and whoever you were supposed to face. Give the tape, just about to record my breakdown for it. And then I see our guy, Big Marcel, tweet out that the fight is off. So I'm like, damn it. Waste of time.
When you get ahead and the fights get canceled, it punishes the content creators, man. Exactly. It's brutal.
People love early content, but in this COVID era, we got to be a little bit more precious with our time.
It's tough, man. We put extra hours in because of the damn COVID cancellations and shit.
Oh yeah.
So what is our next fight confirmed so far on the card is a light heavyweight tilt that's really got me confused, man. William Knight taking on Alonzo Menifield. This is a pick'em. It looks like a little bit of money has started coming in on Alonzo. He's shaded to the slight favorite at this point. William Knight, Dana White Contender Series guy, most recently in the UFC, 9-1. Alonzo Menifield, I believe, also came off the Contender Series. He is 9-2. So really, from their career standpoints, a good matchup. William Knight's going to be a little bit smaller. He's an absolute monster. Both these guys, like, Dana White was like, bro, fit as many muscles into the octagon as you can on Saturday. And he was like, I got you. And they're going to throw these two absolute animals into the cage and see what happens. William Knight's a guy that you feel like his cardio's bad, but he does the Yoel Romero explode and reload thing. He manages to like redline and then somehow keep going in the fight, something that it keeps him dangerous, honestly, all the way through the entire fight. He's very strong. He does well against the cage, grappling, fighting for underhooks, stuff like that. He's got heavy leg kicks, and he's got really slick transitions on the mat, man. He's got underrated submissions and transitions in his ground game, but he leaves his chin right up in the air. That's something I noticed, that he always has his head right up in the air. And Alonzo Menifield, Fortis MMA, we know so far in the UFC, he's only had about one round of gas. Anytime someone's been able to grapple him and get him into the second round, he's just not nearly as dangerous as he was the round before. It seems like it's something he's working on, though. Believe it or not, I feel like he's almost getting a little bit more shredded and slimming down a little bit, as opposed to being as fluffy as he used to be with all that muscle. So I think that's something he's actively working on. He's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage here. He's going to have a slight height advantage. And man, I almost feel like this is one of those spots where the stock couldn't be lower on Alonzo Menifield. He's fought the higher level of competition, and now he's getting William Knight, a guy that all of us are excited about, and I personally am a huge fan of. I've had some interactions with William Knight in the DMs on Instagram, not to have my 5 seconds of fame here. I really like the guy, but I got a bad feeling about him keeping that chin up, man. I feel like if Menifield can come out and make some improvements based off his last couple of losses, he might get back in the win column here. What are you thinking on this one?
The one thing that I look at is like William Knight has been into the third round 3 times, and he's 3-0 in those fights. Whereas the only time we've ever seen Alonzo Menifield in the third round, he got out-grappled or outworked, I should say, by Devin Clark. Now, this is a tricky one, right? This could be one of those fights where, both guys, heavy punchers, everybody's expecting the under 1.5 to hit here and absolute bombs flying either which way, right? But I could also see an instance where we see William Knight go out there, push Alonzo Menifield up against the cage, and just try to grind him out. You know, I mean, that the Alexa Kimura fight is pretty much that fight the entire time. It's just these guys grappling on each other, laying on each other, skin to skin, not letting the power of either guy really clip each other, right?
Yeah.
So that's the main issue here. I just based on what we have in terms of facts and evidence, I lean to William Knight's side here just because he seems a little bit more durable. He seems like, I don't want to say he should be able to get the takedowns here because Devin Clark very much struggled to get Alonzo Menifield down, even though Alonzo Menifield was gassed as shit by that third round. But
he almost died getting there.
He almost died getting there, exactly. But William Knight just shows a little bit more. And obviously the level of competition is much, much different. I think the best person that William Knight has faced to date was Tafon and Chukwi. And that was another similar fight where you have two guys that just throw absolute haymakers. Yet, it went into the second round and we saw Tafon get the finish there. My gut is saying William Knight, but my head is just saying, stay the fuck away from this fight because it could go either freaking way. But I lean the William Knight side because we see a little bit more than just knockout power. And that's all we've seen Menifield get away with, right? If you go back to his Contender Series fight, he gets Deshaun Boatwright out of there in 8 seconds. What does that tell us? Nothing. Then he gets Vinicius Moreira, very stylistically great fight for him. Avoids the grappling, knocks him out. Paul Craig, Vinicius Moreira 2.0 pretty much. Both guys just want to go out there and grapple, try to get their submission going. And if they're not, they're going to get knocked the hell out. And that's exactly what Menifield did to them. But then when he started to fight other guys that can do more than just that, then he starts coming up on the losing end, right? Devin Clark, good grappler, good clincher. Ovin St. Preux. I was very happy to hit the underdog money on that one because I just felt like OSP would be able to move well enough, use his kicks to kind of keep the range. And that was to a T what happened, right? He was digging to the body with that teep and it worked for him over and over again. Now, is William Knight going to be able to do a similar type of game plan? I'm not 100% sure. I think it's more so going to be a clinch fest up against the cage, try to stay away from the power of both guys. And then if he's able to, drag this fight to the ground. But if not, it's just going to be I think it's going to be a clinch fest. I don't think either guy's going to get knocked out here. I'd go with the William Knight side because we've seen it from him. And I'd probably go William Knight by decision, depending on what those odds are, if we get juicy enough odds there. But I lean the Knight side here. I'm not really understanding the Alonzo Menifield love unless they think he's going to get the knockout because we haven't seen him win by anything else, right? So I'm on Knight here. Not 100% sure if I'll be betting it, though.
I absolutely can understand that, man. And I really hope William Knight isn't watching the show because I bet on him last time out and I love the guy and I hate making those cool relationships with fighters and then going against them. But I really feel like Alonzo might be primed to get that shot here. And the thing that kind of gets me here is that Knight doesn't really push the grappling. People grapple him. Like he wants to strike. Yeah. And then his opponents are the ones who kind of initiate the grappling, and he ends up just being able to like surprise them and come out on top in that area. If he's not able to wrestle the way that Devin Clark did and really drain on Alonzo Menifield, if he's not able to wear on him the way that OSP did and drag him out late, I mean, if this is just, like you said, if they're going to hang out, if they're going to kind of stand and strike, try to avoid each other a little bit, this could be a lot more slow-paced. And if it's a lot more slow-paced, then that means the power from Menifield is still going to be there in the second round, and he might still be fresh enough in the third round to not necessarily get that knockout, but maybe be more active in the striking. Like, so I don't know, man, with the height, the size, the reach, the better level of competition, I just feel like at a pick'em price, everything's pointing towards Menifield. If you gave me, a big dog number on Knight, I'd be on that side all day. But I kind of feel like for my side of things, it's Alonzo or pass.
I think the sneaky play here could also be the over 1.5, which is around -120. I know you do your Total Madness show, so maybe that's something that you could look at over there. But I think this might be a more slow-paced fight where both guys are a little bit too hesitant to overexpose themselves and maybe finding themselves in clinch positions more often than not. So -120 for the over 1.5, not too shabby. And we got Clint yelling at his dog, so it's all good.
Did the microphone catch that, man?
It did not, but I'm assuming that you told your dog to shut the hell up.
Because I'm like, that stupid dog is barking at people driving by, and I mute the microphone, and I'm like, if I just screamed on the show, like, I don't mind talking about it. We all know I did it, but I didn't want the scream to just make the ears bleed, rip headphone users here if I'm screaming at the dog.
Somebody was going to clip it, right? Somebody was going to clip that and use it all over fucking Twitter.
Man, you can't do anything on the internet anymore. It's not safe. It's not
exactly
safe. Keep your kids at home.
Exactly.
Man, I like the look on the over 1.5. Honestly, I think that's a half decent spot. And call me crazy, I might go over 2.5 on this one too. I feel like
playing with fire there.
I'm telling you, man. I think that decision is coming because, like you said, William Knight's been late and he's undefeated going 3 rounds. And Menifield is hard to finish, dude.
Yeah.
If this thing gets to round 2, I don't know if either of these guys are going to have the gas to finish the other. It could get sloppy. So fight goes to decision at plus 275. Maybe that's a
I'm a Fortis MMA stan, right? Like, I love Saif Saud. I believe he draws up great game plans for his opponents, but I feel like with Menifield, he has a guy that's kind of limited, like with the cardio and not really able to put more together than his knockout punches. But I'd be interested to see, like, if they learn anything from the last 2 fights and how he can really round out his game. If there's any coach that can do it, it's James Krause or Saif Saud, in my opinion.
Exactly.
So they're in good hands.
We'll be talking about James Krause in just a little bit, won't we?
Oh, yeah.
And I got to go ahead and shout this out. VS115212. My facial hair wishes it could grow up to be Manpreet's facial hair. I do the Khabib, I do the Hamzat, because, to be honest, I can't do the mustache, man. It just doesn't come in. Those creepy looking porn stars, like they like zoom in here and it's just like this stringy, nasty, like it's just off. That's me. That's what I look like. Like I'm already not the sexiest man in the world. If I grew a mustache, it would be worse. My wife would never forgive me. So
you got to do some sort of like playoff beard type of thing where you let the mustache go as well too, just so we can see it. Come on.
Right?
I think your viewers deserve to see it.
Maybe. You know what? We'll have to do like a likes challenge or something like that. Be like, if the video gets to a certain number of likes, I won't shave for 2 months or something. I don't know. My wife won't forgive me if I do that. All right. Next fight coming up here. Women's bantamweight fight. Alexis Davis taking on Sabina Mazo. And unless I'm mistaken, both these women are moving up to 135 for this fight.
Is that correct? Actually, I thought that's a little bit of news to me. I thought it's 125. Yeah, it's listed as 125 on Tapology, but Tapology has been known to kind of mess up on their weight classes. But this is a fight that I don't mind the dog, and I'm kind of surprised that she's as wide of a dog as she is. I feel like this fight should be a little bit closer line. Yeah, we are seeing the Alexis Davis money start to come in now, but she did open up at plus 205. But the main reason here is Alexis Davis loves to move forward. She doesn't mind eating a punch or two to the face, but she's out there, pursuing the clinch position, pursuing some takedowns, has obviously the better jiu-jitsu here, right? And her striking, as mediocre as it is, it's definitely been making some improvements compared to what we've been seeing earlier on from her career. Now, Sabina Mazo has shown that she doesn't really do the best when she's being pressured, right? The Justine Kish fight, pretty much that entire fight. You see Kish, and I had money on Kish on that night too. And I'm like, oh, I'm counting my money right now. And then she just lands that beautiful head kick and puts out Kish. But I believe Davis has some pretty good durability. I think she'd be able to eat a kick like that if she ate it herself. But I see this fight with Alexis Davis pushing the pace the entire time, not letting Sabina Mazo get comfortable. And again, small cage. We can do that whole thing where we're saying, okay, it's not that hard for her to get on the outside of the warning track. And then when she's there, we can see Alexis Davis just kind of bull rush forward, push her up against the cage. I think Mazo has some trouble in terms of being able to truly get out of those positions, especially against a girl, Alexis Davis, who used to fight at 135 pounds as well, too, right? She looks strong. She's definitely been working out, if that's what you want to call it. But I like Davis here, and I don't mind that plus 170, plus 180, plus 200 is fine. I think she could definitely put it on Mazo here. Yeah, Mazo, absolutely the better striker here. But if she's not able to get comfortable and if she's not able to get her space, then I think it's a little bit more difficult from her. And we've seen it just in her last fight. If it wasn't for that knockdown at the end, she probably loses that fight. So I like Davis here.
Yeah, man, and that's where I think that the weight difference means a big thing here. Sabina Mazo is a big 125er, and she's a young girl. She's still filling out that frame. Alexis Davis, she's not to be messed with, but she's 36. I've got my don't bet on 40-year-olds rule, and for the women, I notch it down a couple of years. I put it in the 38, 37 range, so she's starting to get to that point where I'm like, I'm not really interested in taking that side. Now, you said it correct. The number would be right. You're getting 2-1 on a very experienced veteran of the sport, things like that. But this is another spot where I kind of got to feel like the UFC knows what they're doing. They got a young, hot prospect, and they're trying to push her. They're trying to put her up against someone who she can beat. And we've got Davis, who's on a 3-fight skid. Granted, she's been fighting some of the best in the division. Jennifer Maia, Caitlin Chukagian, Viviane Araujo. Like, those are losses you can't sniff at. You know what I mean? You can't really fault her for losing in those spots. So Davis is doing everything that she can. She's getting a big step down in competition, but moving up 10 pounds each. I just feel like that finishing ability of Mazo is going to be so much more there in this fight. I think that she's going to be live for another club and sub or a head kick knockout of some sort, because we saw it last time. She got beat up by Kish for 15 minutes straight and still landed that shot that rocked her and put her on skates and got her the win. With 10 extra pounds, I got to shout out my guy James Lynch here. He's always doing the interviews with the fighters, and he finds awesome little nuggets of information for us as sports bettors. And Mazo's been taking her strength and conditioning extremely seriously. She's been talking about the transformation that her body has gone under and how she feels different because she hits harder and she's stronger. And that's just something that I don't want to get in front of. I was very, very tempted on Alexis Davis for the exact same reasons that you are when I was first looking at this thing. And now I'm looking at maybe taking a flyer on Sabina Mazo inside the distance as well.
Interesting. One thing I did want to note of the last 3 losses in Davis's career, she slightly outstruck all 3 of those women, and she definitely won a couple rounds off of them as well too. So I think she's still there. The layoff is a little bit sketchy. She hasn't fought since UFC 240, which was the same night that Holloway beat Edgar. So it's been a little bit since we've seen her in the cage. But I think that I do like Davis here, and I'm probably going to take a little bit of a stab on that plus money there.
There you go. Well, it looks like Mazo inside the distance is about plus 450. So that's the direction that I may be looking. And the other option, of course, is the under 2.5. It's only about plus 300, plus 330, something like that. But Alexis Davis has a decent submission game on her. She's got 8 of her wins by submission. She's been kind of a decision machine recently, but that would at least include her, that if this fight doesn't go all the way to the judges' scorecards, you got both fighters included there. So, yeah, man, I'm going to go ahead and pick Sabina Mazo here, and I think that it's a potential inside the distance spot where I take that stab.
I wouldn't mind the inside the distance, especially at plus 400. Right? That's not a bad spot, but I'm going to go with the underdog here.
There you
by
go.
Decision. By decision. We got some disagreement. The people love that. They love when me and my guests don't just, pat each other on the back and agree on everything constantly. So that's good. Just grabbing my charger here real quick. Apologies.
Yeah, you're good. Next up, we've got a welterweight fight that got canceled. You were talking about this before. Randy Brown taking on Alex Oliveira. Again, Oliveira, the report is that they're trying to keep this guy on the card and find him to use, somebody else, find a new dance partner for him. Lightweight fight is going to be the main event basically for the prelims at this point. I hope they get both the guys that lost their opponents new opponents. I absolutely hope we get to save a couple of these fights because, man, we talked about it last week. All of us jinxed it. We were like, we got all these fights on this card, and we somehow made it to the finish line. We're absolutely gonna get through this thing and have an awesome night. And then somehow we lost 3, like we tripped at the finish line and dropped literally 3 fights off. Just the most unreal thing I've ever seen. And now this card has fallen apart in the customary manner a week before the event happens. So hope they can salvage a few of these fights.
Like, what about Chad Skelly, right? Poor guy walks out, literally ready to go, and the poor guy, Jamal Emmers, has back spasms before he walks up. That's absolutely crazy.
And I had Skelly by submission, man.
Ooh.
And that's the kind of thing where I'm like, I hope Immers is okay. I hope the guy's safe and makes a recovery. We don't want anybody getting hurt here. But if you're having medical problems right before you go out against a submission specialist, and I've got the guy by sub, like I was...
Let him go out.
Let him fight.
Him out.
Get him in the
cage. Give him a couple minutes. He'll be fine.
Just give him a minute. Send a masseuse back there. Oh, man. All right, everybody. This is odds.com. I'm your boy Clint for the Die Hard MMA podcast. Do me a favor. Smash that like. My boy Manpreet, MMA Lock of the Night, joining me to break down UFC Vegas 20. Sharp Money. What's up? I see you in the chat, buddy. How you doing? We've got the final fight of the preliminary card. Alexander Hernandez taking on Thiago Moises. Hernandez is 12-3. Moises is 14-4. This is kind of a put up or shut up spot for both these guys. They've been kind of hailed as prospects, and they're right there. And both of them keep kind of missing the boat when it comes to that moment to take that big step up, man. Talk to me about this fight. How do you feel about this one?
To be honest, I'm trying to figure out the path to victory here for Thiago Moises, right? Like Alexander Hernandez, clearly the more crisp and cleaner striker, has the agility, has obviously the speed advantage, has the explosive nature that he fights within, right? And then obviously in the last fight against Drew Dober, very tough fight for him. Or sorry, 2 fights ago against Drew Dober, where Dober just stayed in his face, right? Obviously he had the better striking in that fight, and Dober just never let him off the hook. He just stayed in his face, didn't let him breathe. And he wasn't just headhunting. He was going to the body, which is huge, right? That's like adding up the change. Like you're just continuously going out there and really feeding it to the body there and really sucking the wind out of Alexander Hernandez. I'd be very surprised if we see that type of approach from Thiago Moises, because one, I don't think he's fast enough to continuously stay in Hernandez's face without eating all these big shots. And two, that's just not his style, right? The guy's a jiu-jitsu guy with decent striking. He knocked out a couple guys with like head kicks and stuff, but it's not to the level of an Alexander Hernandez, in my opinion. You can't take too much out of his Gritzmacher fight. Let's be honest here. I mean, Gritzmacher was almost a walking punchy bag in that fight. He's pretty much eating everything that Hernandez was throwing at him until he got knocked out. But I like the change for Hernandez, which is going up there to Factory X MMA, another one. That just another team that he continues to or actually this is the first time I believe he's training with the legitimate camp, because before he was down in San Antonio.
That little gym, man. It's about damn time.
Yeah, and again, Factory X MMA, a great gym to be a part of. And not only is he joining that team, he's like being a full-on teammate, right? I believe the first trip down to Fight Island, he went down there to corner Brandon Royval. And he's only been at the gym for like 2 or 3 months. So he's creating great relationships there. You got to believe that he's enjoying his time there as well, too. And then having guys like, a Mark Montoya in his corner, really allowing him to round out his game and be a little bit more patient and look for those shots. I think it's going to be very impressive. We should see a very impressive performance here against Thiago Moises. I think he'll be able to outstrike him. I think he'll be able to keep the fight on the feet. That's pretty much Thiago Moises' only way to win this fight, right? Like if he gets him to the ground or hopes that Hernandez slows down and just gasses out. I don't think that's going to be an issue here, given that the fights that we've seen Hernandez gas out in, completely different stylistic approach from those guys compared to what we're going to see from Thiago Moises. So I love Hernandez here. I think this is a solid spot for him to potentially even get a finish as well. I think it's going to be tough for Moises to be eating punches to his face for longer than 10 minutes in this fight. So I like me some cucumbers.
Fought off the sneeze, man.
Thiago Moises is going to have a lot harder of a time fighting off Alexander Hernandez than you just had with that sneeze there. But Hernandez here, I think he wins, and I think he's very live for a knockout as well too. I just don't see how Moises gets this fight to the ground. It's not going to be a rolling heel hook. This isn't Michael Johnson that we're talking about, and I think that Hernandez is the better grappler here. So unless Hernandez's cardio absolutely falls off a cliff come the halfway point of this fight, I just don't see where Moises wins this fight. So I got Hernandez here, and again, possible live finish opportunity as well.
I'm kind of there with you, man. And real quick though, I got a sidetrack here. Normally speaking, I don't engage in the haters. I don't spotlight the people that are talking trash. But
what else?
Everybody screen cap it. Everybody screen cap it. If you're looking for a free dinner, Canadian Bacon is offering to buy the 316 live viewers dinner if I cash this week. So everybody take a look, because next week when he comes back and tries to be a hater in the chat again and he owes y'all a burger, we're gonna be ready. So the stakes got raised, man.
I feel embarrassed as a Canadian to have somebody with Canadian in their name be such a blatant like guy like that. You know what I mean? It is what it is. Man, I got the haters. You got the haters. We're the ones on the platform, right? It's all good.
The problem is Lock of the Night. He's got the name wrong because Canadian bacon is sweet. And he's a salty piece of shit. Thiago Moises, man.
Yes,
I am just not impressed.
Yes.
Not impressed with this guy. Like, he's supposed to, his dad was a professional fighter. He was supposed to have this big boxing advantage, you know, shit like that. The one thing is he's got slick jiu-jitsu. He's awesome on the mat, right? But he just hasn't been able to put together a well-rounded MMA game. If he can't get the ground game going, I don't know that he's got an opportunity to win this fight. And as we know, Hernandez, his first love is wrestling. You know what I mean? He's a really strong grappler. I don't know that he's going to give up a sub. And with him moving to a gym like Factory X, I feel like that's just a huge advantage for him. I expect him to show huge improvements, you know, better gas tank, better fight IQ, all that kind of stuff. So I think Hernandez can kind of pick him apart methodically on the feet, defend the takedown, and just, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Hernandez kind of puts on a clinic and grinds out a decision win here. The only problem is I don't know that I want to lay minus 200 on him again. I've been in this spot. I was a Hernandez truther when he first got to the UFC. I thought this kid showed all the promise in the world to be a UFC champion, and then he just kind of fell apart. They rushed him way too soon, and he paid for it. He's a young kid. He can absolutely make those leaps. You know, now that he's at a real gym and he's not a big fish in a small pond anymore, I expect him to improve. I just don't know if I want to line up at minus 200 behind him here.
To be honest, I think he wins this fight at least 75% of the time. And that indicates what? Minus 300. So I personally took the shot at minus 185. I thought that was a good spot. I was just trying to figure out, I'm like, what ways are people going to see that Moises wins this fight? And if I were somebody that wants to back Moises here, is the price that I'm getting on Moises right now the price that I'm going to attack? And I just couldn't come to a conclusion. I just don't see it. You know, again, the only liability that could potentially spring up is the potential cardio issues of Hernandez, and if he's not able to defend takedowns later in the fight. But I think he's going to be fine, especially the way that he should be able to piece up Moises throughout this fight. So, yeah, I love Hernandez here. Minus 185, I think I'm getting a steal, so I had to drop a little bit of money on that.
Yeah, I'm there with you, man. And, you know, it's not my style to lay the big chalk. He is the lock of the night. This is what he does. So, you know, saying that this guy has value at minus 200, I respect that opinion from a sports betting standpoint. That's absolutely a solid way to go and a way to attack this. We'll see if I get there. I'm tempted. We'll see if I get there. And Noah's Ghost, yes, Hernandez is a dick.
I'm hoping Denver made him a nicer person. But we'll see.
Right? Hanging out with the nice people in Denver's got to rub off on the kid.
Of course.
All right. That switches us over to the main card. Thank you all so much for hanging out with us. I do have to shout out my other sponsor, Goat Capital Sports, over on Twitter at @GoatCapital_. They handle all the other sports. I can give you some degenerate action on NHL, but I'm not even good at that. MMA really is the only thing I can provide for you guys. If you want everything else, baseball, basketball, golf, all the soccer, they do everything, and they've got a cool no loss guarantee that if you have a losing week using their picks, you get a refund on your membership for that week. So it's a really cool setup. Go check out goatcapitalsports.com. First fight on the main card here is one that I've already got to play on. Featherweight fight, Alex Caceres taking on Kevin Croom. And you want to go ahead and lead this one off, man?
Yeah, I was kind of surprised at the opening line here. I'm a big Bruce Leroy fan. I cashed some good money on him against Chase Hooper, but this is a tougher fight. Yeah, I mean, I think that Kevin Croom is a solid underdog play here, and I might be making a little bit of a play on him too. I'm hoping that I'm not missing a really good line on him because the line is starting to come down a bit. But I like what I see from the kid. I mean, he came into that Roosevelt Roberts fight as like a plus 300 dog, plus 350 dog. Everybody was counting him out, and I'm not sure how much you can truly extract from a 30-second finish. But if you want to see full 25 minutes of him, literally his fight right before that against a very solid opponent, in my opinion, Anderson Hutchinson, who I believe he had 9 or 10 fights at that point in time, but still a very solid fighter. And with Croom, we saw great pressure, Solid Muay Thai as well too. His clinch is nasty. The guy chases takedowns if that's the way that he needs to go about it. But I love his pressure. I love his output. I love his ability to just keep moving forward. Whereas Caceres, I mean, I feel like he needs a little bit of space to truly get his work going. And you can't really take too much out of the Chase Hooper fight. Again, Hooper has nothing on the feet. And then the Austin Springer fight, the guy jumps in on short notice. And it seemed like he was just a little bit slower. And that's where Caceres was able to really take advantage of him and landed a great shot when Austin Springer went for the takedown. And you can even hear in the audio, I'm not sure if you picked up on it as well too, but after Chris Taioni goes over to Austin Springer, you hear, "Oh, I'm good. What did he catch me with?" So that leads you to believe that like Caceres must have rocked him before he got that rear naked choke. And you could definitely see if you see the replay, it's when Springer goes in for the takedown, similar to Derek Lewis and Curtis Blaze this past weekend, lands a beautiful uppercut on the counter and then follows up with the submission. But I think Croom, very experienced. The guy has like 30 plus fights at this point in time. He's been around the game. Another James Krause pupil that we know that Krause can change people's lives. Just look at Derek Minner last time around. But Croom has a great game. Again, pressure, pace, forward movement, and the volume, I think might be the downfall of Bruce Leroy here. So I'm taking Croom. I'm not 100% sure by finish, maybe by decision. I think that Leroy is a little bit durable, so I think he should be able to handle the pace and pressure, but I just don't think that he's going to get his game going. And I think that's going to be the main factor here as to why Croom gets this W. So I'll go with the Croom side. I think you're getting good value on the plus money. But yeah, I think we're on the same side here.
Yeah, man, I already locked it up. This was the other underdog that I sniped early and wanted to get in here on. Kevin Croom, I think, is underrated. Alex Caceres has essentially kept his job in the UFC by debuting fighters and keeping his record just barely above 500. I mean, he's 17-12. He's been doing this a long, long time. He's 32 years old, and he just never quite got there. You know what I mean? He just never really got over that hump. And even though he looks really good right now, it's because he's fighting nobody. You know, they tried to make an example of him with Chase Hooper, and it was just too early for the kid to get it done. And then he got Austin Springer, who was, I believe, short notice in that spot, and he got handled in round one like he should when you don't belong in the UFC and you come in on short notice. Here he's got a guy in Kevin Croom with a ton of experience, which that's usually Caceres' edge, is the experience. Croom is 21-12. Like, this guy's been fighting everybody, and he's not the best, but we're buying in to my boy James Krause. This is the one, man. He's turning everybody over there into 2.0 versions of themselves. And I know Croom is no spring chicken. I don't expect this guy to contend for a title. I don't know if he'll even go that far in the UFC, but I think he's got what it takes to beat Alex Caceres. He's a pressure fighter. We're in the small cage. He's going to come forward, and unless he just starts chasing Caceres around the small cage, which, don't get me wrong, I can see happening, unless Caceres is able to just stay away from him for 15 minutes, I think he's eventually going to land something. And he's got underrated power. This guy hits hard. He's a BJJ brown belt. And if y'all remember, Bruce Leroy's biggest Achilles heel is that submission defense. I know we just saw him whip out an awesome submission, but he's got 7 losses by submission. Like, if you get this guy on the mat, you can put him away down there. And someone like Kevin Croom, I think, might be able to pull that off. So I'm already on Kevin Croom with the underdog. I am tempted to double up and play the under 2.5, because if Bruce Leroy sits on his punches kind of the way he has been, maybe he manages to clip Croom when he's coming in heavy and hard, hits him with something big, knocks him to the floor, that kind of thing, kind of double covers yourself. And then if Croom lands a submission, I've got not 1 but 2 plus lines that I'm cashing on the fight. So that's a move that I may end up making, not sure yet, but I think Alex Caceres is riding a little bit high right now, and he shouldn't be this big of a favorite over really anybody.
I kind of see, that like him springing the upset over Alex Caceres. And obviously he had another fight lined up where Austin Springer jumped in on short notice. But come on, Kevin Croom, how do you drop the hard-hitting hillbilly nickname? Like, come on. That's like marketing 101. The guy's going to be perfect. A huge star. If he he's not going to win titles, or he's probably not going to crack the top 10 or anything like that, but at least run with the gimmick. You're going to make some money off some solid sponsorships and stuff. But I think you're on the nose here, man. I think Croom, that pace and pressure is just going to catch up to Alex Caceres. And we've seen Croom go 5 hard rounds, and he can do it, and he can hold the pressure. And again, with the solid coaching from the James Krause side of things, I think it's going to be tough for Caceres to to deal with the pressure, to keep being the one on the back foot. He just doesn't fight the greatest off that back foot, whereas Croom's just going to be crashing forward pretty much the entire time, landing good shots. Again, great Muay Thai clinch as well too. He has great knees up the middle. I like what I'm seeing with the kid.
He's just got to get his hands on him, man. He's just got to get his hands on him.
I'm right there with you. I think I'm going to be making a bet on Croom as well too. Not 100% sure about the under 2.5, but I do see your angle there. And that plus money, again, can't bang on plus money shots.
Yeah, and man, that's part of that is because, Croom's preferred way of loss appears to be knockout. I mean, he's got 4 knockout losses on his career, and Alex Caceres has been showing that he's sitting on his punches a little bit more recently. That honestly, that's a spot. Like I said, it's kind of a semi-hedge that it's like, if Caceres is in the driver's seat for this fight, is Croom going to last all 15 minutes? I don't know. So I might take a stab on the under. I'm already on Croom. I don't know. We'll see if I end up just riding it with the side or if I end up doubling up on the spot. I'm not sure yet.
Yeah, but again, I'm looking forward to this fight. I like Croom, and it would be nice to cash that underdog ticket.
Agreed, man. Might sprinkle that sub prop too, just because.
Just because. Give me a sub special. Give me a sub special for this weekend.
Hey, the submission special parlay, I'm all about it, man. That's the one that we hit for 45-1. Can you believe it? 45-1. We got it.
Insane.
It was only a little quarter unit hit, but when you're talking 45-1, that still works out pretty well.
You can't be mad at that at all.
Exactly. All right, man. So women's strawweight fight here. Angela Hill taking on Ashley Yoder, the Spider Monkey. These women have fought before. This is a rematch from back in 2017. Angie's been trying to stay busy, fight her way to that title. Feels like she's been robbed in her last couple fights yet again. And she's taking on another middle-of-the-road type of fighter here. I mean, this one, it kind of worries me for Angela Hill, man. She's a big favorite, and she's turned into a fan favorite because of the cosplay and, her personality. I totally get it. I understand. I love her myself. But I don't know if she should be this big of a favorite here, man. She's got a 77% takedown defense. Yoder's got a 68% takedown defense. Yoder has a 5-inch reach advantage. So even though Angela Hill manages more output, 5.7 significant strikes per minute, Yoder only averaging about 2.81 significant strikes per minute. In the first fight, Yoder got Angie to the ground. She got Angie to the ground, I think like 3 times. And that really made the fight close, in my opinion, with her having that reach advantage. I mean, the only problem is Yoder still has some of those really low-level moves. She still goes for the head and arm throw, and, she's really scrambly. Like, she forces these really awkward positions on the mat, and I think that Angela Hill's a better wrestler than that she'll be able to kind of control those situations. So, man, I got to side with Angela Hill here, but I really don't like this line. I'm not planning on betting her.
Yeah, this is one of those few times where you'll see me pick Angela Hill, but possibly take a half-unit stab on Yoder depending on how crazy this line gets. So the last time they fought was over just about 4 years ago. At that time, Yoder was a purple belt. Now, since that time, she's gained her black belt. She's definitely working really hard at Dan Henderson's training facility. And one thing that you see often from her is that cage work and that clinch work and trying to drag these girls to the ground and get her jiu-jitsu game going. Angela Hill is... she moves well and she has a great kicking game and a great, Muay Thai game from the outside, but it's not out of the realm of possibility that she can get stuck up against the cage. We saw Michelle Waterson successful with it at times, getting her to the ground, controlling some positions. And if you're telling me the best line I'm seeing on Best Fight Odds right now is plus 274 for Yoder, which indicates a 26% probability that she wins this fight. I think this is closer to like 60-40, you know what I mean? Where Hill will probably be the one that's more active on the feet. That's without a doubt. She should be able to keep the range. She should be able to outstrike her, obviously land more volume. But given the size, this discrepancy, right? I think it's like a 4-inch height advantage for Yoder as well as a 4-inch reach advantage as well. I think she should be able to close the distance. I think she should be able to push her up against the cage and make this a very hard fight for Angela Hill. Definitely not something that a minus 350 should be looking like. Yeah. So, just because we've seen Hill, survive the ground game of Gadelia and seen Hill survive the ground game of Michelle Waterson, and she gets back to her feet and she does some good work from on top. That's why I kind of lean Hill ever so slightly. But it only takes a couple minutes for Yoder to win a round here, especially if she's successful in staying on top. And, you got to believe that she's been making improvements in her jiu-jitsu. She had a 10-8 round against Miranda Granger in their 3rd round last time around. She's definitely working on her game all around. And this was a weird stat. So Angela Hill, since coming back to the UFC, her record's 6-7. And say what you want about the robberies and all that type of stuff. She does nothing to change anything about her game. She still goes out there, fights the exact same way, and then cries robbery whenever she doesn't get her hand raised. Like, at the end of the day, you can't continuously keep blaming the judges. You got to make the changes yourself. Go for some takedowns. You know what I mean? Get some more cage control, because she does those things in short little spurts, but then the majority of the round is her just at striking range, and she does a good job of staying on the outside. But when she crashes forward and her opponents hold their ground and they return, it looks like the person, her opponent, is the one landing the better strikes, because she's the one getting her head popped back. She's the one maybe not wearing the damage, but looking like she's getting a little bit more damage off of those strikes, right? So I'm not parlaying Angela Hill here at -350, -300. I think this is a stay away fight. Yeah, do not do that at all.
We always talk about the big bed shitters. Yeah. Everyone says they ruined my parlay. That will be Angela Hill on Saturday. Yeah. Please don't parlay Angela Hill.
Considering how close she fights in all of her fights, like, this is not just a ride into the sunset or a foregone conclusion that Hill's going to go out there in 30-27. This woman, it's going to be a tough fight. Ashley Yoder has shown the consistency in chasing the takedowns, chasing the clinch positions, and I think she could be successful in doing so. So, all I need is 2 rounds for a plus 300-ish that I believe Yoder is eventually going to end up at. So I'll be keeping my eye on that line. I'd take it, no more than a half unit stab here, as I still do that Hill, as I still believe that Hill should kind of keep the distance, get the better of the striking exchanges. And even if this fight does hit the ground, she's shown decent enough get-ups that I believe that she might be able to, minimize the amount of control time from Yoder here. But at the current odds, I want none of Angela Hill.
Yep, we're on the same page here, man. We are absolutely on the same page here. And I liked Angela Hill in her last couple of fights, because I feel like Claudia Gadelha is a shell of herself. She is not the same fighter that she used to be. And Michelle Waterson, she's kind of reaching the end of her run as well. And even though I feel like she's still got some, some good properties and things like that about her, she's small. She's small for the division. She's getting to the end of her career. It was a good spot for Angela Hill to come in as an even money or an underdog in those spots and try and pull the upset. But against another fighter, Angela Hill fights close in every single fight, man. Yoder is not a great fighter to begin with, but I don't think that she's slowing down. You know what I mean? That's where, like, Gadelha, she fades. We've started to see that. She gasses in round 2. She's wearing and tearing on her face. She's getting hurt every time she gets in the cage. That's why I bet Angela Hill. Yoder's not doing that. The only way Yoder loses is by decision. And if you look at a couple of her fights, she lost a split to Randa Marcos and Mackenzie Dern. She could be, 5-3 instead of being 3-5 very, very easily in these spots. And we've seen crazier things happen in the small cage. I am tempted on Yoder because of the plus 250, simply from a sports betting perspective. I absolutely think that she's live here in this spot. But, man, I'm going to say Angela Hill wins the fight. But like you said, do not parlay this woman. Like, do not lay the big chalk on Angela Hill, because even if she does win this thing, she fights to her opponent's level, and it's going to be hairy. It's going to be close. We're not going to be certain that she's going to get her hand raised in the end, and it's more than likely going to the judges, and we all know what happens then. So just way too much different levels of randomness for me on this one.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with predicting one side but betting the other. It's all percentages, and it's all gambling at that point in time, right? So you got to believe that there's some solid value on Yoder, given what she's been doing. And again, she doesn't slow down like you were alluding to, right? She just got a 10-8 in her last fight. And again, it's Miranda Granger. Obviously, it's not the level of Angela Hill or anything like that, but it at least shows us that Yoder is able to go out there and do some solid work from minute 1 to minute 15.
Absolutely, man. All right. Shout out to the chat here. We got 357 live viewers. Thank you all so much for hanging out with us this evening. Really appreciate it. What we've got coming up next is a fight that I had to eat just a little bit of crow on and might have had my night saved. I'm going to let you kick this one off, man. Pedro Munhoz versus Jimmie Rivera. The last time that this fight was matched up, we kind of talked about it, and I liked the Pedro Munhoz side. And I have since seen the light and come around a little bit. So I'm going to let you lead this one off and then just spend the next couple of minutes apologizing to everybody.
Yeah, so this one is almost a no-brainer bet for me for Jimmie Rivera. Now, let's start off on the Pedro Munhoz side of things. For some reason, After that Cody Garbrandt fight, everybody believes that Pedro Munhoz has the touch of death in his hands now, right? He's supposed to go out there and absolutely obliterate Frankie Edgar. Frankie Edgar goes out there and wins a decision. Say what you want about the decision, sketchy or not. Frankie Edgar ate those bombs and kept on chugging. And if anybody has a skeptical chin at that weight class, it's my guy Frankie Edgar, right? So he wasn't able to put away Frankie Edgar. Did a good job in terms of continuously marching forward, landing big shots and all that type of stuff. But with Frankie, you know what I mean? He moves so well. He's able to roll well with shots. And in my opinion, Jimmie Rivera is just a much better striker here, right? Works with Tiger Showman, has shown off his striking pretty much in every single one of his fights. Not really a finisher, you know what I mean? Which is why the decision prop is always a solid way to go if you want to back a Jimmie Rivera play. But even at that -137, -140, -145, I think Jimmie's a very, very solid spot here. I expect him to go out there and completely outstrike Pedro Munhoz. I think the narrative that Jimmie Rivera is chinny, he got knocked out by Marlon Moraes once, right? Look at Ricky Simon. Gets knocked out by Uriah Faber, is now able to go out there and eat big shots from Brian Keller, able to eat big shots from the Gaetano Perello guy, right? I think that's an anomaly on Jimmie Rivera's record. He got dropped twice by Petr Yan, but come on. You tell me that Pedro Munhoz is going to bring some Petr Yan type of heat? That's not going to happen. And people don't want to face it, but if you go back and watch that Petr Yan fight, outside of those two knockdowns, Jimmie Rivera is winning that fight. Yeah, I mean,
that was a competitive fight.
Very competitive fight. Very, very competitive fight. He did a really good job of staying on the outside, landing his big shots, slipped up like 1 second in that first and second round, and then gives up the fight. But again, very competitive fight. I don't believe he's chinny. I don't think Pedro Munhoz is this Francis Ngannou of the 135-pound division that people are making him out to be. Like, let's just go over his finishes. Cody Garbrandt, dumbass Cody Garbrandt, just going in there and just swinging heat when he shouldn't be doing so. Yeah. Brian Caraway, he hurts him to the body, then follows up with punches. But again, Brian Caraway. And that's the only KO finishes he has in the UFC. Matt Holbar, way back in 2014. Who the hell is Matt Holbar? I mean, you got Jimmie Rivera here, who in my opinion is a much better striker. The volume might be a little bit of a concern, but I think that we will see the better striking from Rivera, the better damage from Rivera. He's going to move around. In terms of getting the takedowns, I think Rivera is the better wrestler, so I think he should be able to stop the takedowns of Munhoz. And I don't think that we're going to see Rivera go out there and wrestle. At most, I think we'll see him push him up against the cage, maybe try to suck out the energy of Pedro Munhoz that way. But I don't think he's going to be searching for takedowns. The Cody Stamann fight, that's a fight that a lot of people want to bring up. But Cody Stamann was the one initiating the grappling in that fight the entire time. And Jimmie Rivera did a really good job of, stifling the takedown of Cody Stamann and then just, doing some good work of his own, getting some good control time of his own, but obviously getting the better of the striking exchanges as well, too. The Aljamain Sterling fight, right? That was a very weird one. Great game plan from Aljo there. Just sucked the wind out of Jimmie Rivera. Every time Jimmie went back to his corner, you just see him talking to his coaches, I feel off. You know what I mean? And I don't think it's just because he feels off. It was the approach of Aljamain Sterling to just stifle that striking advantage that Jimmie Rivera had in that fight. So I think this is a lot of people kind of overblowing how good Pedro Munhoz truly is. I truly believe he's just one of those guys that's able to get away, moving forward, throwing bombs and heat because his jiu-jitsu is so good. And then he wants people to take him down so that he can show that off. It's almost like the Hani Yahya approach, right? Hani Yahya just doesn't care about being taken down, so he's throwing the leather. Even like Glover Teixeira and some of these other guys that don't mind getting taken down. They want to goat their opponents into taking them down. Jimmie Rivera is going to have the striking advantage here. He moves well. Leg kicks are great. In and out movement is great. Rolls with shots very well. And I think that knockout loss to Marlon Moraes is just an anomaly. And I think the knockout power of Pedro Munhoz is just being way overblown at this point in time. But yeah, I got Jimmie Rivera winning this fight pretty soundly. And I think the decision prop is not a bad line either. I think it's around +110, +120. Yeah. He's probably the only guy that I would feel comfortable betting via decisions because I hate betting overs and I hate betting via decision props. But Jimmie Rivera is a very efficient fighter and Pedro Munhoz is hella durable as well. So I think we'll see solid work. And last thing I want to touch on, the calf kicks of Pedro Munhoz. I don't think it's going to be as effective here against Jimmie Rivera, who's a very good Muay Thai specialist himself too. I believe that he'll be able to check the kicks properly and just put it on Pedro Munhoz and pretty much counter any time that Pedro wants to throw the kick out there when he's not checking the kick as well. So if you can't tell, I love Jimmie Rivera in this spot.
There you go. So, man, I had to go back and kind of redo my homework. I have a little bit of a perceived notion or perceived bias against Jimmie Rivera. I feel like I've been kind of down on him for the wrong reasons, and recency bias in sports betting is a very, very serious thing. Like, we have all been guilty of that, and it just comes back to bite you. I really feel like I dodged a bullet. You know what I mean? I was all lined up on Pedro Munhoz. It was only a 1-unit shot. It was an underdog. Like, it's not like it's the worst thing in the world. I'm not going to die from it. I'm not going to miss a meal from it, but I'm still trying to be better. I'm still trying to do better. And when I went back after talking to you and a couple of the other people that we chop it up with in the think tank, I'm like, man, am I missing something? And Pedro Munhoz is getting older, man. He's getting older, and that calf kick is kind of the only real thing that he's got. Jimmie Rivera is a far better striker than I gave him credit for, and he got shut down by Aljamain Sterling, who is massive at this weight class, who's potentially the next title holder. He fought well with Peter Yan, who is the current champion. I just completely underrated Jimmie Rivera. After doing my homework, after coming back and looking at it, I flipped. And what I've been doing this year, man, it's something that I struggled with last year, is that my original read was accurate more often than not. And I'm working on trusting myself in those spots. I've officially flipped. I had a bet on Pedro Munhoz. It got canceled because of the reschedule. Now I feel like Jimmie Rivera is going to win. Instead of loading up and putting like 3 units to win 2 on Jimmie Rivera because I feel so strongly that I've flipped sides, I'm just going to stay off. Just going to pass. Because if I turn out to be right the first time, if Munhoz comes out and kicks his leg off and is the slightly faster man, defends the takedowns and boxes him up and wins a split decision, and I drop 3 units because I flipped sides on it, I'm going to rip what's left of my hair out. I'm going to have to start pulling hair from my beard because that's all I got left to pull on. It would just absolutely slay me. So I've switched sides. I'm on team Rivera, but it's not one that I plan to bet simply because of that flipping, that new rule that I've put in place for myself.
I truly think that Jimmie still has the chops to go out there and potentially fight for the title one day, right? Like, the guy's still relatively young for the division, and he still has a great, he still has a great game. He's all there still. And that Cody Stamen fight showed it to us. Again, the Peter Yan fight as well too, outside of those 2 knockdowns. The guy's a good fighter still. He still has it all. He's all there. His speed, everything is still there. And I think this is a great stylistic matchup for him. Jimmie all day here for me.
I like it, man. I like it. Got to give a shout out to Ruckus, because if true, the man's cashing some tickets thanks to some of the reads we've been putting out on the show. So there you go, man. Hope you enjoy that. My boy Danny Seho in the chat. What's up, man? How you doing?
Danny.
All right. We're closing it down, man. We're getting to the end of this thing. Women's flyweight, Montana De La Rosa coming in here against Mayra Bueno Silva. Montana's 11-6-0. Silva is 7-1. Montana De La Rosa, really strong offensive wrestling. She's been working hard on her striking. Her boxing looks very improved the last couple times we've seen her out there. She uses that range well, very lanky, long. Nice timing on her level changes. And one thing I noticed that she does really, really well is she catches kicks and she converts those into takedowns. She's got a 2-inch reach advantage here. And Mayra Silva has a really good kicking game. It's what she does. She likes to rough up that lead leg. She's got a teep kick right up the middle that she goes to. She keeps her hands low, and she is extremely hittable on the feet. In the boxing range, she has problems. Now, Silva's got some really slick BJJ, and back in her fight with Borrella, she was actually the one that initiated the grappling. Silva got put on her back because of the wrestling of Borrella. She gives that up. She's one of these fighters that can settle in and play off of her back because she's so confident in her BJJ game. Honestly, man, I'm starting to look at this thing and feel like this line is backwards. I'm very, very interested in the side of Montana De La Rosa. At current, money's been coming in on Silva. She's a -140 favorite, -145 in some spots. And you can get +110 or +125 on Montana De La Rosa. And I'm going to pull my card here. We got 350 live viewers. If you're with me, if you like Montana De La Rosa, don't touch it. Let's let it simmer. Sit still, because right now the money is coming in on the favorite Silva. Let's see if we can extend this thing out, because if we can get +150 or something crazy like that on De La Rosa, that's far more where I would like to be. But like I said, I almost feel like she should be the favorite in this spot based on what we've seen. Talk to me, Locke. Have you looked into this one?
Yeah, for sure. I'm right there with you, man. I'm a big Montana De La Rosa fan.
I knew you are.
Yeah, I love her. I like the style that she brings to the game. She has a great wrestling background as well too. Probably one of the better ones in this division. And we've seen Bueno Silva taken down time and time again. Marina Moroz was very successful in doing so, even though that third round was pretty much one-sided for Bueno Silva. But I think we've been seeing the improvements from De La Rosa as well too, right? She's now training over there at Team Elevation. I think it's been 2 or 3 fight camps that she's been up there in Denver. They've been doing good work with her, and we've been seeing the improvements in her striking as well too. Obviously, she got her face boxed off and struck off by Viviane Araújo in that last fight, but she took that fight on short notice. That Araújo, we know, is one of the budding top 5 prospects in that division, and she made a good account of herself, right? Like her face was bloody and beaten up, but she was still in there landing some good shots of her own, showing the confidence that's required from a wrestler when you're trying to round out your striking game. So I think that we'll see De La Rosa successful on takedowns here. My only qualm is the fact that Silva just always seems to find the submission off of her back, right? And the only submission loss that we have on De La Rosa's record is to Mackenzie Dern. Nothing to be really mad about.
I was going to say, right? Though, that's not a knock, man. Mackenzie Dern,
exactly.
That's her wheelhouse.
Exactly. If there's anybody that's solid at jiu-jitsu, it's definitely Mackenzie Dern, and we definitely saw it. Well, I wish we saw a little bit more in the Verna Jandiroba fight, because those two are definitely the top of the top when it comes to BJJ, and that turned out to be a boxing match. But yeah, I think De La Rosa will be able to get her down. I think she'll be good enough in terms of staying out of the submissions and accruing some top control and some top time. So I don't mind the plus money on her. I think it's a solid look. I feel like there's a couple other dogs that are slightly bigger dogs that I feel a little bit more confident in, just because of the jiu-jitsu game off of Silva's back. Like, she's nasty with it, right? She's able to throw it up. She's able to be successful with it. But I think this is the first time she's fighting a woman like De La Rosa, who has decent top control of her own, right? With that wrestling background, I think she'll be very successful here. I'm interested to see how wide that line gets, right?
Yeah, exactly, man. And De La Rosa, she's no stranger to jiu-jitsu. She's got 8 submission wins herself. I feel like this is a spot that she might finally be the one who can nullify that submission advantage. And honestly, man, if Montana De La Rosa dumps her by catching the kicks and backs out, I think she could outstrike her. I think she could just beat her up on the feet for 15 minutes. So, man, I'm extremely tempted in this shot. This is one that I may end up pulling the trigger on by fight time. Let's see where this line goes. Like I said, if we can get up to plus 150, plus 160, something like that, because everyone's just in love with Silva. Bookmakers don't usually make bad mistakes, man. If they open a line near pick'em and then the public pushes it all the way up to like a minus 200 or something, we see a lot of those spots crash and burn. So I'm tempted again on the dog here.
I see some people kind of comparing this to the Araújo fight, but Araújo does so well with her movement. She's so good in and out, very fast, crisp with her strikes, whereas Bueno Silva seems a little bit more, not as bouncy around and doesn't move as well as Araújo. So I think that we'll see De La Rosa. It seems to be quite easy based on what we've seen on tape, but then you just got to stay out of the submissions, right? So if she's able to do so, you're getting some solid value on the underdog here in De La Rosa. So I'll keep my eye on the line. I'll see how wide it gets, and if it gets into that plus 150-ish territory, maybe I'll take a little bit of a shot. But when you got dogs like Croom and Davis and these other dogs on the card, I know you like unloading on all these underdogs. I like to be a little bit more skeptical with my approach, a little bit more hesitant with my approach in terms of how much units and stuff I put out there. But yeah, De La Rosa is definitely on the short list of dogs that I like on this card, and I'll go with her. And I think she can win this fight via decision as well.
Nice. I like it, man. And yeah, that's one of the reasons why I love having you on the show, is people get to see different sides of things. I mean, for me, I have a smaller unit size so that it affords me the ability to fire more often. I'm a high volume player. Sometimes I've got big swings. Sometimes I absolutely crush these things and have big winning nights because I fire so many spots. A lot of times it ends up being 50-50 and we squeak or we have a little loss, something like that. But that's the way that I play. You, on the other hand, you're willing to find a spot that you love and just chunk on it, man. Just lay, a big bomb on it. And that's fine. That's what's cool about sports betting. I always use the analogy that betting sports is just like, or betting MMA is just like fighting in MMA. There's jiu-jitsu, there's wrestling, there's Muay Thai, there's boxing. There's so many different things we can do. We can look for dogs, big play, little play. We can look for the props, totals. You can do whatever you want to do, and it depends on what they're offering you per fight card that dictates really what we're looking for. So something everybody can kind of keep in mind is that there's no right style. Everybody can kind of do it the way they want to, and all that matters in the end is we're working together. It's us versus the bookies.
For sure. Just go out there, get a couple of fights, sample size in terms of how you approach fights, and then just analyze it and see where you're making the mistakes and try to correct it moving forward. Obviously, MMA is a high variance sport, just as we saw in that Blades and Lewis fight, but it's going to happen as long as you feel like you're on the right side more often than not, and you're getting good odds on it, especially if you're a dog hunter, you should be good to go.
Shout out to my man, Nasty Nate, still spending that Derek Lewis round 2 money. Get it, buddy. Get it. All right. Next up, we got the co-main event. Man, this one's got me twisted in knots. I cannot wait to talk to you about the and the main event for this card. Light heavyweight fight, Nikita Krylov taking on Magomed Ankalaev. We've got Nikita, who is 27-7, a really hot prospect outside the UFC. Took him forever to get here. He's 2-2 inside the cage. Magomed Ankalaev, if not for that very, very last second brain fart against my boy Paul Craig tapping just a little too quickly, he would be an undefeated 15-0 prospect that everyone's calling for a title shot for. And he's a huge favorite in this spot. We've got another minus 350 price tag on Magomed Ankalaev. I mean, this guy, he is slick on the feet. He's really athletic and flows for a heavyweight or a light heavyweight, just something you don't see from big men like that often. And then he's also a Russian grappler, man. You can always mix in that grinding ability. He's got that in his back pocket. Nikita Krylov, really underrated on the feet. He's a guy that we think of as a submission specialist, but he's got a slick striking game himself, and he's dangerous off of his back. I feel like this is actually a step up for Magomed, a step down for Nikita based on his opponents he's been facing in the UFC. And man, I hate to say it, but I feel like this line is wide. Like, my soul is screaming that Magomed Ankalaev wins this fight. And especially with what we've seen him do with guys like Paul Craig, we saw Nikita Krylov get trapped on his back against, some lesser opponents. Number 1 contender, Glover Teixeira, it feels so good to say that, was able to grind this guy out from top position. I feel like Ankalaev's got a really easy and clear path to victory with that. But man, these spots that feel like they're just so easy are usually the ones that bite you. Look at Curtis Blades and Derek Lewis. Like, Talk to me about this fight, man, because usually Ankalaev is a clear parlay piece, and this is the perfect spot for me to look to fade him. Anytime someone's taking that first step up in competition, they're going against a real fighter, a real contender. That's the time that I try to go against them and get a big payoff for fading the belle of the ball, if you will. And I want to hear your thoughts here, man. What do you got going on here?
I truly believe Magomed Ankalaev is the next light heavyweight champion. I believe he has all the chops. Now he just needs to go out there and show it, right? Like you said, step up in competition here compared to like the Dalcha Lungiambulas and the Iwan Kutalabas and Paul Craigs and stuff, right? But this guy is so slick on the feet. This might be a stretch. Actually, no, I don't think it's a stretch. I'm trying to think off the top of my head, but I truly believe that this is probably the best Russian striker currently in the MMA game. Like, if you can think of, while I'm trying to break this down, if you can think of other Russian strikers, that would be great. But he's so smooth on the feet, right? I'm running the tape on this guy. I'm like, okay, is he southpaw or is he orthodox? And then you see whenever guys are going out there and fighting him from the southpaw position, he's fighting in the orthodox position. Guys come out at him from southpaw like Klitz and Abreu did. He fights the entire fight from orthodox, and he shows the same exact power, same exact proficiency from both stances. That is just amazing. I think he could go out there and pick apart Nikita Krylov on the feet now. The issue I have in terms of Krylov on the feet is that he seems a little bit more active. He puts a little bit more volume together. But how good is his gas tank really, right? He's only gone to a decision twice now in his 30-something fights, which were his last 2 fights. He wins one of them because he goes into Nicky wrestle mode and takes down Johnny Walker time and time again. I think he accrued over 11 minutes of control time in that fight. And then the Glover Teixeira fight, right? We saw Old Man Glover continuously reverse positions, get the takedowns, and really just ride on Krylov. Krylov had some decent moments of his own, threw up a couple of submissions, but I think this is Ankalaev's fight all day, man. I'd be very surprised to see him get caught in something again, like the Paul Craig thing. I'd be very surprised to see him knocked out. He ate a clean shot from Dalcha Lungiambula, showed a little bit of wobble, but was right back in the fight, clinched up with Dalcha. I believe he dragged that fight right to the ground right away. But I think this is Ankalaev all day, man. I find it hard to believe that Krylov will be able to stay clean in the striking realm. I think he's going to get picked apart there. And even though Ankalaev might be a little bit low volume, his striking defense is at 68% for a reason. The guy is so methodical with the striking approach, right? He's waiting for the openings, and then when the opening's there, he explodes, throws a beautiful 3-punch, 4-punch combination, has a great kick up the middle. Just ask our guy, Dolce Lungiambula, right? The guy is just amazing all around. And then let's add on top of that wrestling, right? He's only gotten taken down twice in his UFC career by Paul Craig, but got up pretty much immediately. Very little control time from Craig in that fight. And then we haven't really seen his other fights other than the Klitschko Abreu fight really go long enough for him to be tested in that realm. Now, if it wasn't for this Iwan Cutelaba holdup, like if we got the second fight in that first fight, I think he'd already be fighting a guy like Alexander Rakic, or he'd be fighting a guy like Anthony Smith, or somebody even higher than that, right? I truly believe that this guy is one of the best guys in the UFC right now. And I truly think that he's going to be a champion, probably by the end of 2022 at the latest, depending on how active this guy can stay. But Nikita Krylov, a great experience, like you said. The guy's been fighting since he was like 18 or 19 years old, taking a fight almost every month, it seemed, over there in Russia and Ukraine. Comes to the UFC a little bit too green, a little bit too quick, and learns the hard way. Loses to Serkinov, goes to Fight Night Global, goes to the M1 or whatever it was, gets a couple wins over there, comes back to the UFC, and you see him go 2-2 now. Loses to Glover, and I'm trying to remember the other guy that he lost to, but he got choked. Oh, Jan Blachowicz, champion. You know what I mean? So the cardio, I think, is not going to hold up for Krylov, especially in a fight here where he's going to be getting picked apart on the feet. And I don't know if he submits Ankalaev here. Obviously, people are going to allude to the Paul Craig fight. But again, the guy's working day and night now. You know what I mean? Like, if you look at his IG, he's training with Javier Hernandez and the guys over at AKA, really trying to round out his game. And again, I think he's just a champion waiting to bloom. And this is a great step up for him compared to the past opponents that he's been fighting. So I'm all aboard the Ankalaev train. I think he wins this fight. I don't know if by knockout, but I think it's going to be live, especially if Krylov starts to gas a little bit in that later in this fight, just like we saw him knock out Dolce Lungiambula late in this fight as well too. But yeah, I got Ankalaev here, and I completely understand why the line is as wide as it is.
Man, and that's where I can't shake this underdog feeling. You know what I mean? Like, Nikita Krylov, he choked out Ovince St. Preux in round 2. Like, that is not something many people can say. Like, he is legit on the ground. And he lost a split to Glover. He could have won that fight and been talking about being in title contention. He could have been the guy that derailed old man Glover that has been lighting the world on fire. And then he got choked out by Jan, who is legendary Polish power, Broly, the champion of 205 right now. Like, you don't get any better competition in the UFC than that. The fact that he went to a split, the fact that he's got a finish, I just don't know I don't know that I want to step in front of Nikita Krylov. I have been backing Magomed Ankalaev every single time since he lost to my boy Paul Craig. I've been all over this dude. He's been a parlay piece. I stayed off of it in the Ion fight because of the weird circumstances. I thought maybe Ion was a little bit live. What I've noticed with Ankalaev is the area he struggles is the boxing. If you're a sharp boxer, if you got fast hands and you can get in close on him, that's when he's hittable. That's when he's got a little bit of a problem. And the fact that his opponents in the UFC are Paul Craig, Marcin Prachnio, Klitschko Abreu, Dolce, and then Ion, it's a far cry from what Nikita Krylov has been facing. I know the UFC's been stringing this guy along, letting him grow, letting him get bigger, building up that confidence. But I just feel like this is that moment. This is the cusp. And he's taking on a real fighter who's 28 years old himself. Like, let's not forget, Nikita Krylov has been around forever. He's got a ton of experience. He is not an old man by any stretch of the imagination. He's not a 35-year-old vet in the 205 division. He's going to be improving too. I just think this fight's going to play out a whole lot closer than we expect it to. I'm going to say Ankalaev by decision, but I don't think I'm touching this thing with my money.
Yeah, I want to shout out Danny Lopez in the comments who brought up Piotr Jan as probably one of the best Russian strikers, and I agree there. I'll take a little bit of a step back. Maybe Ankalaev is number 2 there, but the only thing you can really knock Ankalaev about outside of that 1 second against Paul Craig is his resume and his strength of schedule, right? That's the only thing we can really knock him on. And that's kind of out of his control, right? Like the UFC is putting these guys in front of him. Unfortunately, he got tied up with Iwan Cutelaba for way longer than he should have. Hopefully, if they just got that fight done, I believe the first one was April of last year, or sorry, February or March of last year. And then we had to wait so long. Remember, they had the fight canceled like 3 or 4 times because of COVID and all that type of stuff. But if he got Iwan out of there in that first round without any controversy, we'd be talking about him in that top 5, top 7 discussion right now. Can Krylov pull off the upset? It's possible, but I think it's very low percentage considering where Ankalaev has this guy beat. I believe almost everywhere. Everywhere I think he has him beat.
Yep, I kind of feel you there, man. I get it, but I just, every once in a while, you got to learn to listen to the hairs on the back of your neck. My spider senses are tingling here, and for some reason, I can't quite get there. Now, Ankalaev, by decision, is plus 250 right now. So that might be something that I end up being interested in. Whenever you can take a minus 350 favorite and flip them to being a plus 250 dog, that's not a bad spot. And I just have to rely on the toughness of Krylov, which, again, dude's only been knocked out once. And I don't expect Magomed to be looking for arm triangle chokes or anything. Obviously, he could, but we haven't seen him really go to the submission game. In fact, he has no submissions on his record. He seems perfectly fine to stay in a control position and beat his opponent up. So I'm kind of feeling Ankalaev by decision at plus 250. And then maybe you throw a half unit hedge on Krylov by submission at plus 950 for the just in case.
I'm not sure how many people have access to this line, but fight starts round 3 at minus 105 is not too shabby of a line either. I think that has some good value there. I think if any time Krylov falls off in terms of his cardio, it's going to be that 3rd round. But I'm taking Ankalaev. Personally, I haven't parlayed with Jimmie Rivera for a nice plus 117. That's kind of my spot. But yeah, that's the spot that I like here.
All right. Oh, shit. Bill Withers. Cash the Anders Lee anytime goal prop, folks. If anybody decided to roll with me on my degenerate hockey betting, Anders Lee comes through once again. Let's go. And he was plus 240 to do so. Plus 240!
Take it home.
You're right, man. I'm a complete degenerate. I can't help myself. All right. What we've got coming up here is the main event of UFC Vegas 20. I'm chilling with my man, Preet, MMA Lock of the Night, joining us here on odds.com to break down this fight card. I'm your boy, Clint. This is the Die Hard MMA podcast. One final time, I'll shut up about it after this. Give us a like, give us a share, and make sure everybody knows Hammer. Man, I made a joke about giving myself a nickname. I called myself the Hammer, and now it's like a thing. Everyone keeps calling me the Hammer. It's like I made fun of fighters giving themselves nicknames,
yes,
and I've somehow given myself a nickname.
I liked our guy Dan bringing up Clintus Duplessis.
Oh,
that's one that I like.
Duplessis. That one's good. And I saw the Sparring with Reality. Was that the one that said that I need to wear the toga next time?
Maybe next time I'm on, we can do a toga party or something.
I gotta. Oh, dude, toga. I gotta go buy one of the little
the gold thing,
the leaf crowns or whatever they are.
I'd be so down. Just saying, I'd be so down. For shits and giggles.
All right. We might have to work on this. We'll get in the DMs about this toga party. Well, you know what? We'll have to let everybody know, and then people can tweet pictures of themselves in their togas, tuning into the show.
Awesome.
We'll do a toga party episode. I love it.
That'd be so great.
All right. I like this. This might happen. We've got a heavyweight fight for the main event, man. 2 weeks in a row. We're spoiled. I love my heavyweights. And we've got Jairzinho Rozenstruik taking on Ciryl Gane. Whoo! Jairzinho is 11-1, and Ciryl Gane is 7-0. These guys are bringing some serious heat into the cage. But what we also have to look at is their backgrounds. It bears being said. Jairzinho's got over 80 professional kickboxing fights under his belt, too. And 70 of those are by knockout. Ciryl Gane has got, I think, 7 kickboxing fights under his belt, and 5 of those are by knockout. So there's just a massive, massive experience discrepancy between these two guys. Ciryl Gane's a little bit bigger, He's got a 3-inch reach advantage. He's got a phenomenal 81-inch reach. I mean, the longest reaches in the UFC is always 80, like Overeem, Volkov, like they all have 80-inch reach. He's got 81, so he's just he's able to one-up everybody. And, man, Rozenstruik, kind of low volume, sets up big power shots. He likes to chip away at the legs of his opponent, and his real Achilles heel is the ground game. I mean, we saw Overeem chain those trip takedowns and drag him into the later rounds of a 25-minute fight, and it brings back nightmares, because I had Alistair Overeem that night. That was the last night that I bet on Alistair Overeem, and he couldn't hold it together for 4 seconds to get me to the undisputed victory decision win. He got bombed on, and that just shows us that Jairzinho, after getting grappled, which is not his skill set, for 25 minutes still has that life-changing death touch power in the final closing seconds of a fight. This dude's going to be dangerous from bell to bell. Now, Ciryl Gane, he's fast, he's explosive. I talked about, the light heavyweights being way more athletic than they have any right to be. That's Ciryl Gane. Like, this guy is so fast and so clean at heavyweight that it's ridiculous. And he just flows, man. He hits that flow state in the striking, and it's something to watch. But this is the exact same situation for me as the last fight. We've got a 7-0 undefeated prospect who has yet to taste a loss, instilled as a -275 favorite. Jairzinho Rozenstruik, a guy who, even though he's only 11-1, has fought the cream of the crop in the UFC's heavyweight division. He fought Alistair Overeem, Andre Arlovski, Junior Dos Santos, and Francis Ngannou. Now, both these guys are coming off the wins over Junior Dos Santos. So kind of, scrub that a little bit, but we know he's lost his chin. JDS is just not the guy that he used to be. So these big power hitters are going to have no problem taking him out. But beating Alistair Overeem and beating Andre Arlovski, that says something far more to me than beating Don'Tale Mayes and beating Tanner Boser. So again, the discrepancy here is just a huge problem for me when you're talking about laying a chalk price. We just saw what Derek Lewis did in a small cage, and these heavyweights are going to be forced to engage with one another. Can Ciryl Gane stick and move for 25 minutes and stay safe against Jairzinho Rozenstruik? Or does he have the ability to out-grapple him the way Alistair Overeem did? I honestly don't know that he does. I'm very tempted on the underdog here in the main event, man. How's your read on this one?
This is one of those fights, like when you go into Francis Ngannou fights, when you go into Derek Lewis fights, apparently, and when you go into Jairzinho Rozenstruik fights, you can break it down as technically as you want. You can, say, oh, he has disadvantage. Oh, he's a great southpaw. You can say whatever the hell you want. But if these guys land that perfect bomb, it throws everything out, right? So yeah, I've learned my lesson to not bother playing a guy like a -300 who's going up against a guy that has life-changing type of power. And in my opinion, those are the top 3 heaviest punchers in the UFC right now: Francis, Jairzinho, and Derek Lewis. We can flip-flop the last 2 in terms of who deserves more power recognition there, right? But the thing that all of those guys lack is output and volume and an overall MMA game. Like, if anything, I think that Jairzinho is the best fighter out of those 3, given his kickboxing record and how technical he is with his strikes, but his low volume just leaves so much to be desired. So why bet these guys straight when you can just bet inside the distance? Like, do you really think that these guys are going to go out there and win rounds? Probably not going to win rounds. If they knock these guys down, they're probably going to finish them. You're telling me you got to knock him down, 3 out of 5 rounds to win a decision. Just take him by KO or take him inside the distance. You're leaving a little bit of money on the table if you're willing to take the straight shot on Rozenstruik here. But like the smart side of me or the smart side of me, quote unquote, is saying you got to pick Gane here given all the other advantages that he has, right? He has some decent power himself too, but not like Rozenstruik type power, but he moves very good. He might even have the best movement in the heavyweight division, let's be honest, especially at that size and frame. great kicks, great punches, showing off that he has a bit of a submission game as well too when he's on top. Now, I looked to fade Gane when he was scheduled to fight that Antidelia guy, and I believe that me and you did a show that week where we were talking about, the guy's plus 550. Why is Gane such a huge favorite here? We've never really seen him tested in the wrestling realm, which is what that guy was going to test him in.
Yeah.
But do you think Jairzinho is going to bring a singlet to the cage this on the weekend?
A chance.
Exactly. He's going to go out there and he's just going to wait for his shots. He's going to wait to counter. He's going to get some leg kicks out of there, but he's going to be out volumed the entire time. The only way I'd look to play Gane here is if he hits minus 200. That's the line that I'd kind of give him. Okay. And I wish it was a 3-round fight because I would consider the decision prop as well. Those extra 2 rounds make me a little bit more shaky. I see a lot of people in the comment section was just saying the submission prop, and that's one that I was kind of eyeing. It's currently around like plus 500, and I was wishing for a little bit of a better line there, to be honest. You know us, we like those big plus monies, and I was hoping for a little bit more there, but he obviously has a couple of submission victories on his record. The only time we've seen Rozenstruik go to a decision, and actually, besides the Overeem fight, he beat this guy Sergey Kovalev, whose only loss was ever Jairzinho Rozenstruik. I got to go back and watch that fight still, but I truly believe that he's not going to be able to outpoint and out cardio and out volume Gane here. The guy just moves too well, rolls with shots very well, has a great complete MMA game outside of the fact that we haven't seen anything off of his back. That's my only qualm with Gane. I'm picking Gane to win this fight. I'm picking him to win by decision, probably 3rd or 4th round. But man, that Rozenstruik power just changes the game. And at minus 300, I'm a little bit skeptical to lay that type of juice, even in a parlay. Again, I need closer to that minus 200 range to be a little bit more intrigued here. The spot that might not be too bad of a spot here, I got to see what the odds are again. But the over 1.5. That's at minus 200.
It's all the way up to minus 200 now, man. People
that
got in early on that one, they snatched it.
Yeah. Okay, maybe I'm going to pass on that one too. But that was the play last weekend as well too, right? The over 1.5 in the Lewis and JDS fight. Well, most people were on that and saying, "Oh, it's
didn't Lewis ruin that?"
Yeah, and Lewis ruined that as well too. So maybe Rozenstruik ruins the over 1.5 here too. But I'm going with the Gane side just because of the technical abilities that he has, his movement. I think he's going to be able to stay out of the range of the big strikes of Rozenstruik. Obviously, Rozenstruik will land a couple shots here and there, but I think we'll see Gane roll with them well enough to kind of just get away from the knockouts. But yeah, you always have to be wary when you're playing a heavy favorite against a heavy power puncher like Rozenstruik. But I'm still going to be going with the Gane side here.
Okay. Man, I'm really torn on this one. It feels, especially for a degenerate like myself, to not have a bet on either the co-main or the main event of the night. I might die a little. Like that could just be something that I'm incapable of doing. But right now, both the co-main and the main feel like dog or pass positions for me. Like I said, I may have sniped that spot with Magomed Ankalaev by decision. That might be the way that I look there. But this is really a dog or pass spot for me here with Rozenstruik, especially considering the history of his experience with the kickboxing. That's such a big thing for me. But then it's just like Blades, man. It's just like Blades. I go back to Gane and I go, but he's so slick. He's so fast. He's hard to hit. But you know what? One thing I did notice was Tanner Boser was tagging him up. I don't know if you caught that. If you go back in the tape, Tanner Boser had nothing as far as power to threaten Ciryl Gane when they fought, but he hit him a decent amount. That if Gane is not minding his P's and Q's, Jairzinho might touch him. So man, again, like I said, it's dog or pass for me. I don't know what I want to do. I got to decide quick, though, because a lot of people seem to be loading up on Jairzinho, and I don't want to lose that plus 215, plus 220 that's out there. If he gets down to plus 190 or plus 180, again, I'll just probably have to let it go at that point. But getting better than plus 200, I don't hate the dog shot on the second most death touchiest person on the planet.
Yeah, again, I don't really see the narrative of backing Rozenstruik straight here. I just don't see him winning a decision. I don't know how he wins a decision. Just take that inside the distance. You get a little bit better of a price tag. Yeah, it's a smaller result that you have to bank on here. But is there a realm that you see him winning a decision here?
Well, so here's my thing, man. Rozenstruik by knockout is plus 275.
Yeah.
Rozenstruik straight is plus 225. We're talking 50 cents. Like, is it worth it? Like, talk to the people that took Tom Aspinall by knockout.
Yeah, true.
You take inside the distance when it's a 30-cent difference and you cash a ticket instead of getting scooped into this idea of he only wins by knockout. Yes, I think Jairzinho more than likely only wins by knockout. But again, in that kickboxing career of his, he's got a handful, 10 or so wins by decision. It happens every once in a while. And with the movement of Ciryl Gane, with the fact that this guy's never been shown to be chinny or have durability problems, if he's able to eat a couple of these shots, one thing I noticed with Jairzinho, I'm actually glad you brought this up because we kind of get to talk about it a little bit. Jairzinho likes to go light, heavy. He likes to set up his big shots. When he was touching Alistair Overeem, he wasn't sitting on all those shots. He was just finding the distance, finding the range, peppering him a couple times, letting him know he was there. And then he uncorked one when he had to at the end of the fight. But in a lot of those striking exchanges, not the grappling ones, but the striking exchanges, Jairzinho was kind of out-voluming Alistair Overeem. I think there is a world where Jairzinho Rozenstruik is able to get this thing done by decision simply because Gane is durable enough and slick enough on the feet, because Jairzinho is going to understand I can't just load up. I can't just, one big one like Francis Ngannou style. He needs to know that it's going to be a speed game. And if that's the case, he's going to take a little bit off of his shots. So if this turns into a technical kickboxing fight, Rozenstruik by decision is very much in play, and I would much rather play the plus 225 instead of getting greedy and getting that extra 50 cents on the knockout, because if this thing gets into the later rounds, I'm going to be chewing on my ticket. Like, I'm going to have my phone in my mouth, like biting it, because there's a chance I'm going to lose if he doesn't land a bomb here in the last 20 seconds of the fight. I don't want to be in that spot. And this is one of those situations where I'd rather play it straight. Now, Ankalaev, minus 350, Ankalaev by decision, plus 250. Like, that's a swing, man. That's a $5 swing right there. That's what I like to do with my props. I've learned the hard way a couple times that if you take the knockout instead of inside the distance when it's a minuscule difference, that bites you.
Well, Phil Haas won by decision. Derek
right?
Won by decision, right? So
who laid the straight chalk?
I know. I get it. The one thing that I also want, though, is some normalcy back to MMA betting, man. We need, like, stylistically, Gane should win this fight, especially with the narrow path to victory that I believe that Rozenstruik has here, which is that knockout. So if Gane wins, at least we can be like, hey, that Derek Lewis finish was probably like a 2 out of 10 chance of hitting, and it hit that night. Now, I think that Gane should hopefully stay away from the power and cruise either to a decision victory or a late finish. But who the fuck knows? It's MMA.
Hey, Rozenstruik by decision is 10-1, man. Plus 106.5.
Don't do it, Clint. Don't do it, Clint. I see that look in your eye.
I'm behind in that lock of the night contest. So
you see my buddy make that plus 22 play on the Aspinall sub and the Daukaus under 2.5. The guy
ridiculous.
Is just smoking the competition after that hit. Holy shit.
Ridiculous, man. That's where I had Daukaus round 1 for my play in that one, which cashed. That was nice. But I'm starting to do the crazy parlay thing, because you got to catch up. Like, I'm way behind the people that hit this crazy shit early on. I can't grind out these, one play at a time spots. So I'm going to have to do something crazy if I want to be in this thing for the win.
It's really hard for a lot of people to hold that top spot, especially you got 3 more months to go.
For sure.
If they keep losing, that's -5 units, -5 units,
every time,
-5 units, right? So you still have time. Don't worry, Clint. You still got it.
And I'm not looking to rush it or anything, but that's where I found a nice little plus money spot. Like, just kind of keep it chugging along. Man, that Daukaus under 1.5 last week. I'm pissed off I didn't take the opportunity when the line hit -165 to load up on Daukaus. That was what I planned to do. Just like the over 2.5 that I was talking about earlier, I talked about those 2 spots. I was like, if Daukaus gets to like -160, -150, I'm going to hammer that line. He should be a much bigger favorite. And then again, I got busy with work and writing my articles and my family life and stuff, and those 2 spots slipped by me, and I just left it on the table. So little frustrated with that, but that under 1.5 at minus 155 was like the sweetest spot I could ever ask for. I didn't know how that spot wasn't like minus 250 or some shit, because you know that old man Olenik's only got 3 minutes worth of gas to get it done, and he either gets it done or he dies.
Dude, that hand speed of Daukaus is absolutely insane.
It's
ridiculous.
Wild.
Ridiculous.
I love that guy. And Peter, buddy, no. I want nothing with Nunes. I'm all fine with you having confidence in me and my abilities, but Nunes would take life off of me. She would beat years out of my face. No, thank you. I'm not getting into that. All right, Jesus. Man, we've had a good time on the show here today. Shot the shit a little bit here at the end. Thank you all so much for hanging out with us on the podcast. We really appreciate each and every one of you for spending time with us. Even the haters, you're still here spending your time. And man, you know what? Go ahead, hit that thumbs up for me. We appreciate it. And if you didn't like the show, then smash the shit out of the thumbs down. Go for it. Yeah. You have at it. It's there just for you. So thank you all so much for spending time today. And Locke, thank you for spending time. The floor is yours, man. Tell the people where they can find you and what you got going on.
Yeah, MMA LOTN on all platforms. I'm going to be dropping my podcast probably in a couple hours or so. I just got to edit it, put it together, and drop it on the YouTubes. But as normal, you guys can find me every Thursday on the Propping You Up show with Cody Saftik. That's 8 p.m. Eastern. On Thursdays, 9 p.m. Eastern, we do the Final Weigh-In show with me, Bleed, Cody, and MMA Prediction Guru. Great set of guys over there. We always have a good turnout for that show as well, too. Always love chopping it up with those guys. And yeah, that's really about it. That's where you guys can find me. Just MMA LOTN, Twitter, Instagram, and the YouTubes.
There you go. There you go. Yep, odds.com doing some great things in the content realms these days. Of course, check them out on those shows. I'm always in the chat for propping you up. And I try to make the Friday recap show, but sometimes I get a little busy, unfortunately. I'm going to have Total Madness coming out later this week. And once again, tune into the Friday after the weigh-in. Make sure you listen to my Friday after the weigh-in show. It's where I do my best work. And give me a follow on Twitter at Die Hard MMA Pod if you haven't already. And you know what? We always like to leave everybody with a positive, uplifting message here. And I didn't write a sermon today. I don't have a speech for you all, and I know that's kind of my thing. But really, all you got to do is just don't be a dick. I always give a speech at the beginning of the fights. Hashtag don't be a dick. It's just not that hard. We're allowed to disagree with one another, especially when it comes to fights. We're allowed to bet the opposite side and disagree on what side is value and what not. People get real amped up and pissed off about people who do this or don't do that, and people who are betting the wrong side of the fights or losing and winning bettors. Man, we're watching the best sport in the world. We have a good time. We're having fun. It doesn't matter if you bet $5 per fight and you're just enjoying your weekend, or if you go out and lay down $1,000 per fight and you're trying to make your money off of this. It does not matter at the end of the day. Be kind to one another. That's the best thing that you can do out there, and you'll live a much longer and happier life if you do. So you guys go out, have a great week. Thank you very much for spending your time with us, and we'll see you next time. Let's roll.